Welcome, everyone. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. It's 3 o'clock. We are here at the Larimer County Hearing Room. It is Monday, January 23rd, and we are here for a land use hearing. I am Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shack McNally, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm joined with my colleagues, Commissioner Stevens, who resides in District 2, and my colleague, Commissioner Kafalis, who resides in District 1. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for joining us for the Pledge of Allegiance, and thank you to my colleagues. I will also add that we are joined with us at the dais with our clerk and recorder from the Clerk and Recorder's Office, Deidre O'Neill. Thank you, Deidre, for being here today. And also from my County Attorney's Office, we have Frank Haug. Thank you, Frank, for being here today. And then I just wanted to share who's at the table. We have our Director, Community Development Director, Leslie Ellis. Leslie, I'll go ahead and have you introduce everyone at your dais, and I think you have some folks in the audience. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. Leslie Ellis, Community Development Director, and I will do some staff introductions here, starting with the staff who are at the dais to my left. And Tatum Hastings is here. She's one of our planners, as is Samantha Mott. Noelle Udell is here from the Health Department, and Connor Sheldon is here from Engineering. And then in the audience, we also have Alyssa Martin and Michael Whitley, Samantha Lasher, Tracy Hicks, and Matt Lafferty. Oh, got a little bit of feedback there. And Justin Curry's here also. Good. Am I missing anybody? I think I got them all. Okay, and Alan Key.
Great. And Leslie, do you want to explain to everyone kind of the process and what we have available here at the hearing today? Thank you.
Yes, happy to. So welcome to all the members of the public who are here this afternoon. We would respectfully request that you silence any cell phones if you have them. And we do have listening devices up here, if that would be of help to anybody. We also have agendas here for the meeting, if that would be something that you'd like. We would ask that you refrain from clapping or making any reaction to anything that happens in the hearing here. We'll have some folks online who may testify as part of the hearing on Zoom. And if you've signed up to testify here in the room, please wait till you're called to come up to the dais, and then you'll be welcome to come up and make your comments. And I think those are the main items to help folks get oriented to this meeting, and I'll hand it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ellis. I appreciate that. So we have a few items on our agenda today. We have 2 items that are on our consent agenda, and then we have 3 items on our public hearing discussion items on the agenda. So first, I'm going to discuss the consent agenda items. So first, let me just talk about, for the public's knowledge, that consent agenda items are land use proposals where the applicant and the Planning Development Services team are in agreement with the details of the proposal and recommendations. And furthermore, consent items are presented when there's no known opposition and they are approved collectively without a full hearing. A consent agenda item can be pulled by one of the commissioners or a member of the public from the consent agenda. And so I will read off of these consent agendas items right now, and then I'll ask my colleagues if they have any that they would like to have pulled from the agenda. So first, our first item is the Cedar Springs second amended plat of lots 11 and 12 and lot 13, block 3, and easement vacation, file number 22-LAND 4266. And the second item is the Prospect Energy LLC Cell Tower Administrative Special Review, file number 22-WCF 0075. And those are our 2 items on our consent agenda. So I will now ask if either one of the commissioners would like to remove any of the items from the consent agenda. Thank you for that. So now I will ask if anyone from the public would like to pull an item from the consent agenda. If so, please signify now. Okay. So Leslie, is there anyone online who would,
Well, I believe
Just
based on
intention-
folks who signed
Consent.
in that we do have people here to speak on the Prospect Energy case. Is that true? Is anybody here to speak to that item in the audience? Yes,
so those folks would have to,
Yes.
someone would have to ask them to pull that item from the agenda to be able to speak. So, so I see a hand raised that someone from the public would like to have this item pulled from the consent agenda. Can I just have another signal? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so with that, colleagues, I would recommend, Commissioner Stevens, could you make a motion that we could approve the consent agenda without that item as we're removing item number 2 from the consent agenda?
Yeah, let me find the motion. Madam Chair, I move to approve the remaining item on the consent agenda, which is item number 1, subject to the conditions in the staff reports, and further move to authorize the chair to sign the findings and resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. That's, a motion is on the table. Any further discussion for that item? Great. All those in favor of approving that consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we will move on to the discussion items and add this on to discussion. So Director Ellis, would this be the first item then for that item for this hearing, to have that as a full hearing item and have presentation on that?
So Commissioner Shattuck McNally, it's really your discretion as to whether you want to go through the items that are currently on discussion and put it at the end, or put it before the items that are on discussion. So
I think we'll go ahead and have it now and then have the other items. So if we could go ahead and have that staff go into our public discussion items, and we'll start with the Prospect Energy Cell Tower LLC. Thank you.
All right, give us just one moment here and we'll call up the presentation and we'll get Alyssa Martin here.
Sorry to make you do all the do-si-do of name
Yeah.
tags there. Thank you all. Thanks for your patience.
Okay. All right. It wants me to sign in. Okay, sorry, it's the moment of technical difficulties. I'm going to pull it up on this other computer here very quickly.
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank
Can you hear
you.
me okay?
yeah, thank you.
So this application is the Prospect Energy LLC Cell Tower Administrative Special Review, File 22 WCF 0075. And I'm Alyssa Martin. I am the planner for this case. So a little bit of context. This property is located at 1229 East Douglas Road in Fort Collins. It's located on the southeast side of the intersection of East Douglas Road and North County Road 13. The zone district is RR2, rural residential. The existing land use is for oil and gas operations. There is 3 active oil wells on the site, and then there's 1 plugged and abandoned well, and this is pulled from the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. The surrounding land use is single-family residential, and it is within the Fort Collins Growth Management Area. The request is for an administrative special review for a proposed 60-foot with a 4-foot lightning rod monopine wireless communications tower. In the RR2 zoning district, alternative tower structures that are concealed, so which a monopine would be, that are taller than 40 feet and up to 60 feet are allowed with an administrative special review. But due to the neighbor comments, the application was elevated to a Board of County Commissioners hearing. The tower is designed for co-location to hold 3 different cell carriers. There is a proposed lease area that will be 45 feet by 45. The tower will be designed as a faux pine tree with fencing and landscaping around the perimeter of the lease area. Access will be taken off of an existing access drive from Hearthfire Way, and the tower will be located approximately 260 feet from the nearest residential structure, 175 feet from the nearest right-of-way, and about 200 feet from the nearest oil well. So here is a site plan provided by the applicant. I wanted to call out where the proposed lease area will be. Hearthfire Drive is there to the south, and then there are some wetlands on the site that are denoted there. Here's a different angle. The lease area is denoted and then showing where those nearest existing oil wells are located on the site. This again provided by the applicant. This is what the leasing area would look like. So the monopine would be located in the center, and there would be areas for 4 different leasing areas from different cell carriers. This is the elevation drawing provided by the applicant. So as you can see, it is designed to be a faux pine tree with the tower height being 60 feet, a 4-foot lightning rod for a total height of 64 feet. The applicant did provide photo simulations. So these, I circled where they are. This is photo location 1. Photo location 2 is up here to the northwest. Photo location 3, 4, and then 5 is over here to the northeast. So this is the first photo simulation that was provided by the applicant. Second photo simulation showing the top of what the monopine would look like from this direction. From the third location previously mentioned. Fourth location, that's southwest of the proposed tower. And then this is off of Hearthfire Way. So the application was sent to a variety of referral agencies. They're listed out here. The ones we received comments from was Poudre Fire Authority, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Building Division, and the Engineering Department. They had no concerns with the proposal. Conditions of approval are included to require that the access road will meet Larimer County Rural Area Road standards, and that access requirements from Poudre Fire will be met as well. So 19 neighbor comments were received. There was 9 in support of the tower, 9 in opposition, and 1 with general clarifying questions. Comments in opposition generally covered health effects, property values, and wildlife. Comments in favor noted absence of cell service in the area, causing public safety concerns. So per federal law, the Federal Communications Commission, there is a regulation that no state or local government therefore may regulate the placement, construction, or modification of personal wireless service facilities on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions. So I just wanted to point that out, the FCC regulations there. All written comments from the public were included in attachment F in your packet. And then in reviewing the proposed administrative special review application, the county commissioner shall consider the general review approval criteria and then specific review criteria here for administrative special reviews. These 1 through 5, I won't read all of them, but these are the standard review criteria for all administrative special reviews. And then in addition, Article 9, very specific to wireless communication facilities, applies as additional criteria. Other than the 5 standard conditions of approval, 3 additional conditions were proposed. The plans submitted with the building permit shall demonstrate compliance with the access standards noted in the engineering department's comments. Prior to building permit issuance, the applicant must have approval from Poudre Fire Authority and must comply with the standards laid out in their comments memo. And the tower shall be constructed so that there is a 2-to-1 ratio of distance between any oil and gas equipment. So the tower does not fall into any of those equipment if there becomes a failure. So it is the assessment of the Development Services team that this request meets the administrative special review criteria, provided that the applicant satisfies the recommended conditions of approval. So the suggestion motion would be, I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve Prospect Energy LLC Tower Admin Special Review 22 WCF 0075, subject to those conditions in the staff report. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Martin. Well done. Thank you for that presentation. Colleagues, do you have any questions for staff at this time? Commissioner Kafalis.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Alyssa. I have a couple of questions, and it may be that the questions are better suited for the applicant, but I'll start with you. I'm wondering, based on, well, first of all, I actually went out to the Hearth Fire subdivision. Sometimes it helps me to get a visualization, and I guess the access off of East Douglas Road is, I think it's Hearth Fire Way, and then there's Hearth Fire Drive where there are a number of homes. And I'm understanding that the proposed cell tower site, monopine cell tower site, is kind of in the southeast corner of where the oil and gas development is. There's some storage tanks there and 3 active wells, I believe, and all of that. So with that in mind, I think my first question is, by the applicant, was there any consideration for any other type of cell tower configuration? One of the comments that we received just today, I think, was suggesting that rather than a 60-foot fake pine tree, which, since there are some silos in that area, could there have been a silo kind of tower? That would be my first question, if you understand my question.
Yeah, I think that question would be better for the applicant. We hadn't discussed any alternative designs at all.
Okay, may I continue? Let me see if my second question I have better luck. Let me think. I think a couple of folks commented that, 2 more questions, I believe, but a couple of folks commented that if there was any possibility to perhaps move the site farther away from, where some of the homes are, and I think primarily on Hearth Fire Drive, more to the north to the entrance and more rural setting, and there's some farms there, I think. So was that discussed? And I recognize that one of the challenges there is that it puts it closer to a wetlands, and there are issues with that. So is there any possibility to move it farther north away from some of the homes, even though recognizing that we are exceeding the land use code requirements for setbacks from residential? I think we're actually at 260 feet from the closest home. Could you comment on that, please? Or maybe that's a good one for the applicant too.
Yes, so the applicant can go in more detail. I do know that they wanted to keep the cell tower on the existing gravel site, so they didn't want to have to disturb any existing vegetation on the site. So they were trying to keep it away from any of the existing trees and having to tear down that. There is the wetlands, so there is a 100-foot wetland buffer. And then if they pushed it farther north on the site, it starts getting a little bit iffy with the oil and gas wells. We wanted it to be far enough away, set back from those. So, but they can speak to, the applicant can speak more to the specifics on that. But that's generally what I got from them.
Okay. Last question, and I suspect this one will be for the applicant too, but at least I'll put it out there. I appreciate that there's a lot of attention being given to the requirements in our land use code regarding design and landscaping standards. And it looks like there are quite a number of mature trees in that area. And I think they're looking to plant some additional trees and so on and so forth. It seems that most of the trees in that area are deciduous trees, and therefore in the wintertime, the monopine would be more visible. And I wonder if there was any discussion about planting additional mature trees that perhaps are evergreens that would help block some of the potential impacts, visual impacts, aesthetic impacts.
So our code requires in growth management areas 60% to be evergreen and 40% to be deciduous around the base of the leasing area. So their landscape plan did account for that.
Okay, I appreciate you addressing my questions as best as you can at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Stevens, I saw you had your hand raised.
I do. Just one question for me. So it sounds like we asked City of Fort Collins, because this is in the growth management area, and we asked the City of Fort Collins for comments. Did we not receive any?
We didn't receive any comments from
All
them.
right, thank you. That's my only question. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. That was a question I had as well, so don't need to ask again. So with that, I don't think I have any other further questions. I think you stated out the things I was wondering. So we will now have the applicant come forward and present. So we have a pretty packed agenda. We usually do about 10 to 15 minutes, I believe, for a presentation. Is that enough time, or do you?
I'll be much shorter than that, but I would reserve time to answer
Yeah.
follow-up questions. I'm sure there'll be a few.
Yeah, we'll probably, after the public comment, we usually give some time for rebuttal. And I mean, we have a brief presentation. We probably usually do about 5 minutes for rebuttal, so that works. That would be great. So if you could introduce yourself and identify yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to present this to you today. My name is Michael Powers. I represent the applicant, Atlas Tower 1 LLC. I'm going to stop. Is there an echo? Because I hear an echo. You're good? Okay, thanks. So Atlas Tower 1 LLC is the applicant. We're located at 3002 Bluff Street in Boulder, Colorado, Suite 300, Boulder, Colorado, Boulder 80301. I want to go through probably 5 specific subjects: who we are, what are we trying to accomplish, why here, and what is our goal. So first off, I want to say who are we? Atlas Tower is a wireless infrastructure development company that's been in existence since 2007. We've done many projects in and around Larimer County and Fort Collins. In fact, the last 2 sites that we've done completed the Long Pond site and also a site at Mountain Vista Golf near the Anheuser-Busch. Those are all projects that we've worked on. Atlas Tower works specifically with in a collaboration with mobile network operators. So AT&T, Verizon, and in this case, Dish Network or T-Mobile. In this case, our anchor tenant, our starting partner for this project is Dish Network, also a Colorado company. And the way this works is Atlas Tower basically is the developer of the site, the owner of the site, and the manager of the site. The Dish Network and other users of the tower will come on as essentially tenants to the tower, And so we will be, or if this is approved, Atlas Tower will be responsible for any issues now or in the future, maintenance or what have you, going forward. And we are a local company, and that's what we do. The collaboration is that we will be building essentially the structure and managing the structure. There is obviously a technical component, which is the antennas, the switching equipment, essentially the telecom piece to it. And so it is a two-part sort of collaboration, and I do have a representative of Dish Network here who could also answer questions as needed. So that's who we are. I guess the next question is why here? I didn't exactly hear that question, but I'm sure it's in the minds of some. Basically, this particular area has been a known problem area actually for all of the mobile network operators. We work very closely with Verizon on several projects in this area, and this particular area was noted to be a problem more than 5 years ago, and it still hasn't been fixed. When we're trying to solve an issue with a network, whether it's actual coverage, which this site does actually have a coverage issue, and it has a capacity issue. The signal's super weak if there is a signal. It's kind of unusual in a developed area like this to have both coverage and capacity issues in the same area. Just speaks to just how much this infrastructure and technology is needed for this area of the community. So when we start our process of deciding where to go, first we have basically a search ring that is a circle on a map. Engineers say if we can improve our equipment in this particular circle, we can solve the problem. So that's sort of the starting point of where we're searching from. The second most important criteria is land use. Can we find a parcel of land where this use is allowed? And so in this case, we are on a parcel where this land use is allowed. I wouldn't say exactly by right, but the process is that it is a site plan review process, and we worked really hard to find a parcel that would have a site plan review process. So we weren't asking for a variance. We weren't trying to push the equipment or the structure into a space where we were not in compliance with the expectation that's written in the zoning code. As we present this application to this body, we have met all of the code requirements for the site plan review, and we've also worked extensively with staff to make sure that they were happy with all of the somewhat subjective pieces of this, so that it was the best, in the best location, in the best position to meet the code and also be able to do and perform the technical thing that we're trying to achieve here. Between those two circles, the search ring and then the land use, we also have another criteria, which quite frankly is we have to find a landowner that's willing to work with us. And in this case, we were quite fortunate to have a landowner that has sort of a compatible commercial/industrial use that was willing to work with us. Often I have conversations with communities about why did you pick this location? That is also a real factor. We can't just go anywhere. We actually have to have a real estate agreement with someone who's willing to allow this use. And so with those three things, that drove us to the site, and I think it's a very appropriate site. I guess I'm going to punt on any questions about health and safety as it relates to the propagation of radio frequencies for communication, because that was sort of covered by staff. But if there are questions, I think I can say that I'm an expert in the area. And if you did want to have a discussion about that, even though this body is not necessarily allowed to use that information as to weigh in as the decision, I'm happy to talk about that here in this body or with the public now or later. With that said, I do think that this design is a good one. Certainly, we could consider a different design. We have done the silo design. Typically, the silo design is most copacetic with an actual farm sort of setting, and that was one of the reasons why we chose the monopine. The other reason was that there are mature trees on this site, as staff has indicated, and typically when this structure, this monopine design, is put in with other mature trees and some new plantings, it does work quite well. I know that there are a few structures of this design within the county that have not been done well. I will totally acknowledge that. Not to make it super simple, but I'm going to try to make it super simple. It really comes down to branch density. If you have 3.0 branches per foot with your tower, which is a minimum for our company, you generally get a pretty good looking tree. Below that number, it starts to look like the proverbial Charlie Brown Christmas tree. It doesn't look good. It looks anemic and dying, and if it's not near mature trees, it just doesn't blend. That is not the product that we're trying to bring to this site. I know that the sites that we've done that are pine trees in this community have been dense branch density, substantially more dense than some of the other towers that I can think of. And so I want to just remind the community and the commission that they're not all the same. And we do bring quality to our projects, and that's an important part of our design. And we've had conversations with staff about that. With that, I think, honestly, I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time to answer questions, because I think that based on the site plan review status of this, I don't have further things to say without some direction.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Colley, do you have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Stevens?
I actually don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavalis?
Yes, I did, but see if it'll come back to me for a moment.
Do you mind if I ask my question while you think about your question, sir?
I do not mind. That would likely be helpful.
Okay. I had a quick question, and I think it was one of the drawings that Ms. Martin had shown, the site plan, where it had the tower kind of in the center, and then you have the 4 lease spaces. Can you describe what the 4 lease spaces might look like, how tall those would be, and what does that look like, and how does that blend in with the landscape, so they're not as, is that covered by trees with a screen? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk, but if it's possible to pull up that site plan, it might help folks understand. We have essentially leased a small portion of land, which is approximately 2,000 square feet. It's pretty small. That leased area will house the tall structure, the monopine tower, plus equipment on the ground. And then that entire leased area is fenced, and then there will be additional vegetation plantings around that. The concept is that we're building not just a tower or a structure for one mobile network operator. We are working with DISH to start this project, but we are building a multi-use structure for wireless communication or other types of wireless communication that's not related to personal consumer use. for the future. Essentially, we have designed the tower to have no less than 4 extensive installations of equipment, potentially with the potential of hosting 4 mobile network operators' equipment on the same site. And so the concept is each of those pads, those concrete pads on the ground that'll be inside the fenced area, those are places where other users of this structure could come and put their equipment. The equipment is typically either in a very short, small shed, or increasingly commonly, we're seeing a lot of outdoor cabinets as this equipment becomes more robust and able to manage to be out in the elements. And in this case, Dish Network's equipment is going to be in outdoor cabinets, so it won't be visible over the fence.
Okay, that was one I was curious about. So you're saying that the equipment won't be above the fence line, it'll be below the fence line. So the fence is going to be about 6 feet tall?
That's correct.
Okay, great. I think that's all I had. I was trying to get a visual for that and trying to understand. Then the vegetation will be around the outside of the fence.
And I have to say that, just to reiterate the partnership, the mobile network operator will also go through a permitting process as well. So they'll have to get a building permit for their equipment and the installation of their antennas and electrical work, and they will have to comply with all of those rules and regulations in order to get their building permit. So I'm not on the record saying anything other than each installation will comply with the building permit rules that are promulgated as well. So
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Commissioner Koufalos, did you have your question, sir?
Mostly, yes. There are the couple of questions that I asked Alyssa around landscaping, and do you feel like you're doing what needs to be done to minimize the visual impact, especially during the winter time, when a lot of those mature trees, the cottonwoods and others that I think are there, elms perhaps, when the leaves fall? So that would be one question, sir.
Certainly, we as a company or as an applicant would be perfectly happy to go with all non-deciduous plantings. The code goes with this 60-40 split, and I think that makes it look a bit more natural during the summer. But honestly, in this part of Colorado, I find that juniper plantings, as many as you'll let us do, is a really good plant that does well, and it provides coverage year round. But we intend to do a substantial landscaping plan, and even with the 60-40 split deciduous to evergreen, I do believe that it's going to do a really good job of letting it blend in with the surroundings. And we are, again, 160 feet away from nearest residential, and there is other things, clutter, whatever you want to call it, objects, to further diffuse the visual aspect that some are concerned about.
May I continue? Yeah. Thank you. We plant trees, and water is a big issue around here. What are the plans to increase the viability that those trees will take, as far as watering and taking care of them, especially when they're first put in the ground?
Yes, first and foremost, Atlas Tower 1 as applicant and as potentially the developer of the site, if approved, has the obligation to keep the trees alive. I think the code requires that they inspect after a certain period of time. We spend a lot of money on those trees, and typically if the trees die, we're asked to replace them. So we do manage that process pretty well. There's three strategies to do that. One strategy is to try to enter an agreement with the landowner if they have a tap on site for municipal water that we could potentially purchase, and in which case we would install an irrigation system. Another strategy which works but it's a little bit more high maintenance is we will bring in these big, I I forget the name, but it's a giant plastic cube of water that holds a couple, I don't know, 400 or 500 gallons of water. And then we can use drip irrigation by having that inside the compound. And then the third option, which we did at Mountain Vista Golf, which was awkward, is that we hired a landscaping company to actually come with a water truck and plant the plants. But it doesn't matter what strategy we use. In any event, the goal is to keep the trees alive, and if some of them don't make it, they get replanted.
Great, thank you. May I just a couple more? I appreciate your engaging with me, sir. I was also asking, it's been suggested that perhaps we could move this site, I think, more to the north, but then it might infringe upon the 100-foot buffer for the wetlands. Could you speak to that? And also if Atlas were to consider, assuming this were approved, maybe changing some of the design, like from monopine to silo, I'm just hypothetically, would that mean that you'd have to go back to the drawing board, or how would that work with, where we are in the process?
Let me start in order.
Thanks.
So to be clear, this is only half of our regulatory compliance process because you are the local government. We also go through a full array of federal compliance, and within that array of compliance that we have to go through and get approval for, we do NEPAs on each site. So the National Environmental Policy Act report, we use specialists to analyze the land for a whole myriad of potential issues. And one of the potential issues is that we might be interfering with endangered or other threatened species, whether it's animal or plant. And so it's our strong preference to not do that. We did have a NEPA done. We are aware of where the wetlands are. Wetlands can be revegetated after a disturbance, but it's really not ideal. All of our communities' wetlands are quite threatened, and it's best to stay out of the wetlands, so that's our strong preference. Second question is, why the monopine? Why not a different design? I honestly think the monopine design that we use is a really good, convincing specimen. If you stand close to it, it doesn't look like a real tree. I'm not going to say that, but our trees with the branch density that we use look pretty good once you get 100 feet away or so, and there is other trees nearby. Could it have been a silo? I guess it could be. We considered that and other designs as well. It's literally impossible to go through this process without someone saying, why not somewhere else? Why not a different design? At this point in time, we're bringing the monopine design to this body to vote on because we do believe it's the best one for this area. And I understand, I totally appreciate, you questioning, well, is that the best? It's hard to say yes or no, but we as a company decided based on what we thought was going to look the best, that this is the best application to put forward at this time.
Thank you. And my final question, which is looking into the future a little bit, and I appreciate that you mentioned the issues related to coverage and capacity. We know that northeast quadrant is going to be built out rather extensively. Will there be a need? I mean, what is the degree of capacity of this proposed tower to accommodate the likely, fairly significant future growth of the northeast quadrant up there?
That's a great question. I would argue that we're potentially preempting as many as 3 other applications in the future. Atlas Tower's business model is to spend a lot of money up front and be patient with the payback. And by that, I mean we are designing a tower that is literally 400% greater than the actual current need, both both in physical capacity, ground space, and power. We'll bring in 800 amps of power, and Dish will probably only use about 110 of those. So, yeah, and I mean, I'm going to take this opportunity to also just point out that this technology is really, while we're not a utility per se, like a regulated entity by the government that can be regulated in that way, the way that telecom is used is essentially utility. People need it. It's very important for all sorts of communication issues between families and education and businesses and being able to work from home and so on. But I want to highlight one more thing that's really important about what we're doing here, and that is that we're bringing in the latest, most the best technology possible to integrate with the needs of your first responders. Not too long ago, I mean, 15 years ago, when a police, fire, ambulance was driving to a location for an emergency, often those first responders have little or no idea what they're going to see or be confronted when they arrive. In today's world, our networks that we're helping to build, Dish's network, literally is allowing those first responders to get super extensive information about who lives at that location or what sort of explosives are on site because it's an industrial site, how to get access and all that sort of thing. So I do think strongly that this part of the community that has really bad infrastructure for wireless communication is going to be greatly enhanced by this project. And I hope that is something you think about as you decide how to vote today. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate those last comments. It certainly has been brought up that this is a public safety matter. And I think in the packet that we received, I read somewhere that perhaps something like 70% of 911 calls are often done via cell phone. And then we've heard from folks say that, you know, their calls get dropped. It's not the most reliable. So I think that's very important. Thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stevens, I didn't see you had any other further questions.
I don't.
Thank you.
Would like to hear from the public.
Yeah, I would too. So, thank you. And can you remind me your name again?
Michael Powers.
Michael Powers. Thank you. Sorry, it's after all this.
No, don't apologize. Thank you for the
So we'll go ahead and have you sit down and we'll go ahead and open up for public comment. How many people do we have sign up? Just curious.
I'm sharing my screen here so you can see the folks who've signed up in the order. This is for the case number 075 here. So it looks like we have 10 to 12 or so for that particular case.
Okay,
And
so,
then there may be a few online as well.
okay, for the 75, which is
Correct.
not this one, right? Or this
That-
one is one?
That is this
Okay.
case, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, just when we have that many, for the interest of time, I think I'll limit public comment to 2 minutes, and then with a rebuttal afterwards. So, we'll go ahead and, have everyone come up to the podium and introduce yourself, where you're from, and you'll have 2 minutes, and Leslie and staff will be helping monitoring that time. They'll be up on the screen up there on the left. And so, Leslie, I'll go ahead and have you call up the first person and have the other person on deck. And
Okay.
any other instructions we need to give, or?
I think those are the main instructions. And I would say if you're on deck, you can come on up and be ready to be next in line. So first up, we have Sally Weber, and then after Sally, Mary Fields, and then Rebecca Hansen.
Hello, and thank you, commissioners and project manager, for your, especially for your questions. My name is Sally Weber. I am a resident of Hawkfire, and although I am interested in a lot of the issues related to living in an area where there's a cell tower. I'm here to speak about the property value and how that's affected. There's several articles that we found that indicate the property values can be affected anywhere from 7.6% to 20%. There's an article that was published in August 2019 that says we find that homes close to towers sell for a discount of up to 7.6%, that any noticeable effect disappears at 1,500 feet. It's an article in May 2018, and the previous article came from a realtor website. The second one, published in 2018, says on average, the potential external cost of a wireless tower is approximately $4,132 per residential property, which corresponds to a negative price effect of 2.65%. The negative impact of 9.78% is much more severe. What I wanted to indicate that although that health cannot be we can't talk about health, there is a perceived effect that health is an issue. And because of that perception, property values will be affected. And I want to also mention that Pine cell tower, if it's certainly better than just a pole.
Okay.
But in the wintertime, as you've mentioned, Commissioner Cavallis,
So I'll have you wrap
it
up.
is incongruent with that area.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next up is,
Next up, we have Mary Field, and after Mary, Rebecca Hansen, and then Christine Haas.
Commissioners, thank you. Thank you for letting us have this discussion. My name is Mary Field, and I live in Hearthfire. In fact, I live right across the street from where this is going in. I am not against having a cell tower. In fact, I complain all the time that my calls are dropped. So I am definitely for that. It was more the location, that it was so close to our houses that we could see this instead of kind of being more hidden back farther away from us. And that, he's talking about this pine thing. Well, as Mr. Kafalis has said, there aren't hardly any evergreens there. And so it would stick out like a sore thumb in the wintertime. Anyway, and when they're talking about, yes, landscaping, how many of those landscaped trees are going to grow to 30, 40 feet that would help it to blend in instead of, if you have a 10-foot or 12-foot tree, that's not going to make it blend in. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Rebecca Hansen, and then Christine Haas, and then David Haas.
Thank you for providing this opportunity for us to have a voice in this. Thank you very much for coming to take a look at our neighborhood. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and it does have the misfortune of sitting right on the county line and amidst other commercial property. And those of us who live there love living there. It's such a passion for us, and I just ask that you would really consider not just the plants and the animals, but the people that live there and love living there. And I also live across the street from the proposed site. And I just don't believe yet, without more facts, that there isn't room. There's a whole lot of land between us and out to Douglas Street. And that land is already been disturbed. And so I would ask, please, that more consideration be taken to moving that cell tower back away from the homes that are going to look straight out at it. And I plead with you to consider the people that live there. Those are our homes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Christine Haas, and then David Haas, and then Patricia Meyer after that.
So, is this the best angle to, I've got a display that I was told I could bring. So, just make sure I get the right angle for you all to see. Is that, am I doing it? Is that fine? Thank you. My name is Chris Hawes, and I live in Hearthfire. I have brought this display here to indicate that I feel like the application is somewhat deceptive. Thank you. That this was what was shown to the neighborhood. I'm not quite sure where those new photos came from, but this was shown to the neighborhood, and they're just hiding that monopine. This is literally a shot behind one tree that, yes, if you stand behind that one tree, you wouldn't see the monopine. So this is a cell tower application. I've not seen those new photos, but still that monopine stands out. They do not show a shot of the street that everybody's talking about. This is what it looks like right now. The cell tower would be right here. Out of place, wildly out of place. This is the stop sign that people, this is a turn into the neighborhood here. That's at least a third of the neighborhood has to drive by that would drive by that monopine. And potential buyers would be driving by that too, anybody looking to buy in the neighborhood. So that monopine is an eyesore. It's difficult to have a company come and say, well, we decided for you that the monopine was best for you. It is not attractive. There's no monopines that look like that. I'm really asking that you consider it be a silo. You can see there's silos over here. And so this is from the Atlas portfolio. So Atlas Cell Tower has this in their portfolio that they can do a silo. And I'd also ask if we could consider a 40-foot as opposed to a 60-foot. I don't know the magic of the 60-foot. I assume that's the max. But do we have to approve the max? Can it be a 40-foot installation? So those are my points. I really, again, I also beg that you consider these alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Haas, you're up, and then Patricia Meyer, and then Steve Meyer.
Hi, I'm David Hawes. I do live at Hearthfire Drive, 3509. One of the things that we wanted to discuss today, and Commissioner Cafalas has brought up several times, I think is very important. A 64-foot structure covered by a box of 6 to 8 foot tall growth is not natural. And it's still short in the comparison. It will draw your eye to it every time you drive by it, every time you look at it. Our points to say is that a monopine is still going to be a monopine. It'll still be called faux. It's not called a pine. It's a faux pine. So looking at what we're going to be seeing on a daily basis in our neighborhood, brought to the furthest point away and closest to our neighborhood in this property that it possibly could be, our consideration that you look at moving it to another part of this structure. These are not planted trees in there. Those are all wild growth trees, mostly Russian olives and cottonwoods that will not be there forever. And when their leaves are gone, as in those pictures you saw, this stands out where it's at dramatically. So we'd like you to consider something besides just a 6 foot surrounding of the actual site itself of the landscaping, not just to hide the boxes on the ground, but to draw some differences between the actual structure, whatever it may be at the end. And then the fact that this should be looked at other parts of this property, not to close as it possibly could be to the residents of Hearthfire. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Patricia Meyer.
Thank you for having us today. You've heard a lot from our neighbors, and I just wanted to again express my concern about the health and safety in the neighborhood. We've had situations where phone calls were dropped when alarms were going off. And my concern also, because I'm also with these folks where we could see this day in, day out our front door, is that it does look appropriate. And it is absolutely needed. I know they said a quasi-utility. In today's world, cell phones should be looked at just like water and gas and electricity because you can't do anything without them, whether you're getting a reservation or buying tickets to the ballet. So when you're planning for all of that growth that is just down the road from us, because there's Turnberry and Morningstar and Turnberry and Douglas with hundreds of new homes, which will mean thousands of new cell phones, there is nothing covering it. And so while we try to find something that's reasonable to look at in our neighborhood, it doesn't all have to solve the problem with us looking at it, but it would be nice that it was reasonable enough that it covers our neighborhood. And as you plan all those new homes, those developers and the money going into those neighborhoods account for what they need in that area instead of us taking the brunt of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Meyer.
Hi, my name is Steve Meyer. I also am a Hearthfire resident. That was my wife. And I want to thank Commissioner Kafalis, who I had sent a note to, and he educated me on his role in this current activity. So I appreciate that very much for understanding better what you guys are doing here. As part of what I see with this, the big issue for me is also safety. As we moved into the area, coming down Douglas Road, I was noticing we had no connection at all. Also in our neighborhood. So I went to Verizon immediately after we moved in 2000, 2 years ago, basically, and they told us that this was not their problem, that they had lost access to a couple towers, and that really was the city and the county needed to fix this. When we received the note that this was a planned activity, I wrote a note saying, thank you, I'm sure glad that you guys are finally taking this on, because from a health and safety or public safety perspective, this is absolutely necessary. I came home, I'll give you a little story, I came home about 2 months ago or a few months ago, and there was an alarm going off in one of the houses in our neighborhood. I went down there to check on it, and it had been going on for a while, so I tried to make a call to the police and let them know, and I could not get a hold of them. There was no reception at all. I had to go back to my house to where I have Wi-Fi connection for my phone in order to make that happen. So I want to commend, first off, the team here for putting together such an excellent proposal, and for the all the folks who put the thought and effort into making this happen. I think it's absolutely essential for the safety of our your residents and all those who you are responsible for, to represent. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Marcella Wells.
Good afternoon. I come before you to speak out in opposition to the cell tower. Although I hear both sides of this tangled issue, and I think it's going to come down to a question of public safety versus property values. And that's a real tough balance for a county commissioner to make. And so I respect that decision you have to make. I'd like to speak to three things. One, aesthetics. Two, location. And three, the environment. Number one, the aesthetics. Somebody put it well that a faux pine, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. They're just an awful solution to the cell tower. The trees in the winter are also a problem. I would like to ask that if we do this, that if it's proposed for this particular site, that it be a silo and that 40 feet be the limit. Location, I'd like to know in that sphere of influence, that big circle, is the atomic clock in the area up very far north, is that possible? Because that area is not near any homes or whatever, and there seems to be a property up there that I don't know if that's within the sphere or not, so I don't want to make that judgment, but I just wanted to mention that atomic clock area with all the red towers. And then the number one that's more closer to home is our entrance to our neighborhood. Every realtor that sells a home in there drives right through that entrance. Every person, every new homeowner. The entrance is really, really important to us. It was designed for that purpose, to be a welcoming and soothing place. And with the cell tower, adds a different aesthetic to that whole location. And then finally, on the environment, I just wanted to say that there is information out there about wildlife. We have a whole herd of a whole herd of deer that frequent the area quite a bit. We have fox, deer, raccoon, all sorts of amphibians, and that area is home for wetland and food and shelter for animals. And that preservation of that entrance environment is incredibly important to all of us. So in my perfect world, I'd say let's not have it at all. I think it's going to be something less than that.
So I'm going to have you wrap up. You're out of time. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize. We're just trying to make sure we get enough time for all the public comments. So thank you. And so you are Jim Miles.
Correct.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jim Miles, and I'm a resident of Hearthfire Subdivision, live right across the street from the proposed tower. I sent you a rather lengthy statement for the record, so I won't reiterate the information that I've already sent to you. I just have a couple of comments to make about some of the objectives. First of all, I'm here as a very strong advocate and proponent for this installation. I'll make just two comments relative to the comments that have been made today. Number one, the proposed location is already an industrial facility. And so we already have storage tanks, we already have pump jacks, as you all know. And so I think that the proposal to consider doing a silo type arrangement would perhaps be more in sync with what's already there. And so I would suggest that we might want to consider that as an alternative. The other thing about the property values, I would submit that if we put the cell tower in, we can have real estate agents come in and communicate to potential buyers, hey, we have cell coverage here in this part of Fort Collins. I think it's a very positive thing, not a negative thing. And I think the whole discussion around deterioration of property values is very hard to pin down. And for as many studies as you can find that shows that it has a detrimental effect, you can find an equal number that will show that it has a positive effect. I know one thing, when I first bought my house 7 years ago, I was dumbstruck that I couldn't have cell coverage here in this part of the city. So the fact that we're going to get it, I think, is a very positive win. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for staying on time. So now we have Robbie Karistan.
I'm the dish engineer, so my colleague spoke, so I was there only to answer any.
Okay.
You're part of the applicant team?
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay. Okay.
So we have Joseph
Yep.
Horan, thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing us to speak. My wife and I moved into Hearthfire 10 and a half years ago. We have not had cell service all that time. We have to sit in a particular spot in the house to make calls. If we walk around, we lose the call. The comments about wildlife seem a little bit outrageous. We have 144 homes. That translates to a minimum of 300 people with children, people walking dogs, people driving cars, people riding motorcycles, bicycles, and the wildlife have not been bothered one iota. An inanimate cell tower could hardly bother wildlife, in my opinion. With respect to the real estate values, people driving into our neighborhood see a tank farm and pump jacks. The concept that a cell tower shaped in a tree is going to affect them negatively in that foreground is a little bit far-fetched, in my opinion. The health effects have been debunked for years. I'm a retired physician, practiced for 37 years, and I've heard all the stories, and I've never seen one reputable article that confirms any danger. That's really about all I have to say, except that safety is a huge issue. And it's not just our neighborhood, even though it seems like our neighborhood is here speaking. The whole area of the county up there, Abbotsford Road has no signal. It's all around there. It's not safe. And our retiring sheriff made that quite clear recently. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. We have Karen Hamilton. Last call for Karen. Karen? Okay, we'll move on to Jim Schuth.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. In regards to the tower, I'll just be very succinct because we've covered a lot of the other points. I would suggest, number one, that the tower moved back further north 100 to 150 yards, which would negate a lot of the aesthetic qualities. Number two, one thing that has not been addressed is how is power going to be delivered to the tower? Is it going to come off Hearthfire Way, Hearthfire Drive? Third point would be, I would think that probably the cell tower folks could maybe somehow negotiate entry into that area through the oil company's properties, which does come off a road that's already been built off of Hearthfire Way. And then the last comment I would make would be about the wetland. Yeah, there will be some disturbance there, being a biologist and having some expertise in that area. Most of the trees that are in there that are deciduous are Russian olive. Russian olive, I believe, has been deemed an invasive species by Colorado. If it's removed to make room for that Hearthfire Tower pad, I don't see that as a bad thing, because right now that wetland is a little trashy in terms of this invasive species. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Robert Fulton.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I must have said something out there I shouldn't have said.
Okay. So we have Chris Griffith.
I'm just going to pass, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Leslie, do we have some folks that wanted to comment online?
Whoop, I believe we do. Let me go to them next. Okay, so if you're online on Zoom and you'd like to make a comment about this case, now's a good time to raise your hand. I do see two people with hands raised, so we'll go to them, Tiffany Lehman and then Liz Lopez.
Okay, so Ms. Lehman, if you could, you have 2 minutes to speak for online comment. If you could identify yourself. Yes, if you can identify yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello? Can you hear me?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you. Can you wave if you can hear me? Okay, I'll speak very quickly. My name is Tiffany Lehman, and I live in Hearthfire, and I apologize for not being there today. My daughter is sick. I am in complete agreement with my neighbors who are here this afternoon to address our issues with this proposal, the health concerns, the property values, the aesthetics, the lack of choice in this matter. And in addition, I wanted to make a focus on the abundant wildlife. The research is abundantly clear that animals are affected by these towers. Animals are exquisitely sensitive to even low levels of electromagnetic radiation, which explains why they can sense earthquakes long before humans. Many, many studies, and I have a whole stack of them here, but obviously due to time, I'm not going to be able to show them, show that these towers disrupt this natural field and cause devastating impacts to animals' abilities to survive. One of the unique aspects of Hearthfire is the prominent natural areas of the many animals that we have in this neighborhood. This is an environmentally sensitive habitat, and we are asking you to protect these species in their already established homes. Please come and visit our unique neighborhood. You'll be in awe as you drive through the trees and see the wetlands and the lakes. Do not let these companies destroy the delicate ecosystem we are so lucky to have in this neighborhood. Please protect our natural ecosystem and all the wildlife who live in Hearthfire. This problem can easily be addressed. All of the coverage issues can easily be addressed by locating the cell tower in a different area. There's abundant land in the north part of town, and such as the atomic clock area that Marcella spoke about. We can easily fix the cell phone issue by moving the tower to another location that's not going to be next to our houses and affect wildlife. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, so I will wrap it up there. But I do not want this in my neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiffany, for your comments. So the next person you said, Leslie, was?
Liz Lopez is up next.
And Liz Lopez, if you can hear me, we have 2 minutes to make your comments. If you could identify yourself and where you live. Thank you.
I believe she dropped off, so hopefully she'll rejoin us here, but she's no longer with us.
Okay.
And I don't see any other hands raised on Zoom. If anybody else on Zoom would like to make a comment, now's a good time to raise your hand and we'll invite you in to comment.
Okay. And I'll just make one last call for anyone present in the audience to make a public comment. I see one hand raised. So Leslie, while you keep an eye on for the Ms. Lopez, sir, if you can come up to the front, if you can identify yourself where you live, and you have.
I have a brand new knee.
Okay, take your time then. And if you have 2 minutes, if you can make your comments and just tell me where you live and your name, sir.
My name is Donald Baker. I live in Hearthfire. I have a very selfish reason for wanting this tower placed. I have a daughter who's 52, quadriplegic, is in a wheelchair with a ventilator. And although we have very good electric service out there, I do live in fear of what happens if we can't get emergency services. And we can't without internet phone. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Leslie, did Ms. Lopez come back online?
She has not rejoined us at this point.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, we will close public comment. Commissioner Kafalis, I'm sorry, do you have a concern, sir?
I did not sigh. I was just taking a deep breath. I think that's important.
Okay. Okay, I just want to make sure because I was attention getting, so I wanted to see if you needed something. So with that, so we'll have the applicant come back up. You'll have 5 minutes. And I don't know if you brought a colleague. I don't know if that colleague needs to come with you, but I thought you would have 5 minutes to address the comments that were brought up by the public.
Thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity to come back and try to rebut some of the things that were said. But I want to start basically with the basics, which is we are applying for a commercial use on an industrial property, and we have met all of the administrative requirements, including setbacks and stealthing pursuant to the code. So I just want to remind everyone that there is a reason why we're here, and that reason is the zoning code. We're not actually building this in a neighborhood. We're building this in a commercial industrial area, which has different rules because it is a different type of use within the code, and we are complying with that. I'll throw out a couple of just responses to some of the concerns because I hate to hear people concerned about things that perhaps aren't actually true or are more subjective than you might think. Property values. I mean, we could talk for hours about property values, but property values are inherently arbitrary. Many of the folks in this neighborhood probably purchased a single-family home at a lower price because it was so close to an industrial property nearby, as opposed to someplace else where there's more residential. Property values can be affected by many things. I have read a lot of these real estate newsletters about property values going down because of towers. Most of the ones that I've read are specifically trying to address a traditional tower. Traditional tower is a steel pole. It's typically 100 to 150 feet tall. It's very easy to see, and it is clearly an industrial fixture on the land. We are building, I will remind the community, we are building something that is stealth. It's not invisible. It's not going to trick anybody that's near it to think it's a real tree. But we are spending a significant amount of effort and money to make it blend with the community. And at 60 feet, quite frankly, it's one of the shortest towers in terms of height we build nationwide. Average tower heights are typically between 100 and 120 feet. This is part of your code. Your code is strict, and so we're complying with the code by also building a shorter structure than we would have otherwise. Some other things that were brought up, I want to just quickly address again the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act review that we have to comply with, did use actual specialists in the area of plants and animals, and they, within the report, they reviewed and confirmed there is no scientific issue or problem for species within this area, provided we stay away from the wetlands. So I think that those arguments have been addressed by professionals. And then obviously there's definitely a theme of the proponents in this community that they're very keenly interested in having this lack of coverage fixed for safety reasons. We could talk a long time about that, but it is super unusual for a community of this density, so close to a modern city, to not have this normal modern convenience. And it definitely has a huge impact on the way your first responders are able to do their jobs safely, and also provide help, et cetera, for the community nearby. And lastly, I understand that there's a normal reaction to an application like this from the community to second guess the details. Can it be shorter? Could it go north? Could it be a different style or color? Again, we have you only have two people before you representing the applicant, but actually there's a whole team of people that have been studying this particular project and working on the application for more than probably 10 months, I think. And so there's been a lot of input from professionals trying to bring to the community and to this commission the best application we possibly could. And so, sure, we can second guess the details, but at this moment, we're asking the commission to vote on the application as presented, because we do think we've done a good job of meeting your code and addressing some of the concerns. I do have a DISH representative here who's a specialist in the world of engineering, and I am not. And I just wanted to give him a chance to just speak to one specific thing, and that is height, because that was a question that was raised.
Yeah, if that could be briefly, because we just, for the rebuttal, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yes, so my name is Robbie Carriston. I'm the radio frequency manager at DISH. The reason we need to have a minimum height, it's because of the propagation. So the lower we're going to get, the more tower we're going to need in the area. So our tower at 60 feet will cover about 2.5 miles. So at 2.5 miles, we need to put another tower. So we have two existing sites south of that location on existing structure. So that's what we try to do. We're not, here to build new towers. We try to use existing structure. So the reason there is no tower in your area, it's because major operator, they have decided that their priority will be the big cities, not the rural area. So at Dish, we try to give coverage to everyone. So that location at 2.7 miles from our existing sites is the best location we can get to get that coverage. And if we would have to reduce the height, we would have to put maybe another tower a mile away. So the height is needed for us. And then also with that, is it?
Go ahead, wrap up.
Yeah, also with that height, that Mike saying, the higher is going to be, the more other operator can be on that tower. So that limited the number of towers that you're going to have in your neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Appreciate that information and data. Okay, with that, did you, so you want to ask some Leslie, can we ask some more questions from the commissioners? Okay. Commissioner Kafalis, I see that you are wanting to ask a question of the applicants.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Now that I've had a chance to take a deep breath, I do have I hope it's appropriate, a follow-up question for Michael. And that is, listening, I mean, there's a lot of support for this, and I believe it's needed, but we've also heard concerns. Our job is to try to find a balance, which, as you can imagine, is often not a simple matter. Wondering, are there any other considerations that your company would think about in terms of further addressing, mitigating some of the concerns about aesthetics, wintertime, when a lot of the leaves are down? I don't really know, frankly. You've done all the NEPA reviews, and of course you have to do that, and that's necessary, it's important, but whether or not it would make a difference as far as visual, to move it more to the north, or would that impinge on the wetlands, and that would create problems? And then finally, the silo thing. But I'm just wondering if there's anything you would consider, unless that's not a fair question, putting you on the spot a bit.
No, that's fine. Thank you. It's all part of the dialogue.
Thank you.
Again, on landscaping, as applicant, Atlas is open to doing any type of landscaping that the staff and the commission would like to see. And most certainly, if we wanted to play with that 60-40 split of deciduous to evergreen, we would be perfectly fine with that. Basically, we picked this location because it had some mature trees. It met the setbacks. It wasn't in the wetlands, and it also further north. There's some issues with operations of the existing oil and gas facility. So this is the location that we have for you to decide whether to approve or not, and obviously it's in your purview to vote as you see fit based on your needs and so on. But again, we are bringing to the commission an administrative application where we avoided any request for variances, and we are on a property that is used for commercial and industrial, and this service is needed. I don't think we really could have done a better job actually at this point in time.
Oh, thank you, Michael, and I appreciate that. Yes. One final question at this point is one of the folks who came up, we don't recall who it was, asked a question about how will this site be powered? Could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, sure. So that
thanks.
was that was Jim Schultz, and Jim Schultz was wondering about power. Basically, the way that works is we as a company will make application with the power company for our standard service, which is 800 amps of single-phase power. And to the utmost extent that we have control as applicant, we go underground. We use directional boring as much as possible, particularly as we traverse the parent parcel that this is going to be developed on. There is one challenge, I suppose, in that I don't know what's underground and what sort of configurations we'll have to deal with. But quite frankly, with the power company, we have literally no say. We tell them what we need, and they decide how they're going to develop that line extension, where it's going to go, and how it'll be designed. All I can tell you is that Atlas Tower will be advocating at all times for underground power, because that's the best aesthetically, and that's the most reliable way to bring power to our sites.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Michael, for answering those questions. Commissioner Stevens, I know you had a question.
Sure, yeah. I mean, most of my questions were answered in your rebuttal, and I appreciate you addressing some of the concerns that the neighbors brought up. What about the atomic clock site? Do you know that site, and would that be an appropriate site? I'm not familiar with that site, so I don't know if you could speak to that, because that was brought up a couple times.
I honestly don't know that specific site, but I can assure you that when we started this project, we do what we always do. We're given from RF engineers a specific location where they can fix the network problem, and we work within that circle. And we, on more difficult to zone and approve sites, we always contact every landowner within that circle to see what our options are. And this option, quite frankly, by far met the criteria that's needed. And there's one criteria that I can't emphasize enough, and that is, in order for the telecommunication network to work really well for the people in the community, it can't be miles away. It needs to be in the community, because that's where it's most needed. And quite frankly, pretty much everywhere else you go in the city of Fort Collins and most of Larimer County, you have much better coverage almost everywhere else. So if we're moving it somewhere else, we're not going to be able to fix the network gap that we're trying to fix.
Thank you. I have a question for staff.
I can add something if you want.
Sure, please.
So if we move the sites away, wireless equal mobility. So people, when they drive, when they're biking, we need our site to be connected to each other. So if we move that site further to the north, that site will not connect to the site we have to the south. So that will cause a problem in our...
So they need to be kind of equidistant from each other, I guess.
Yeah, depend on the height and then the terrain. But we have tools that we use to make sure they are connecting to each other.
Thank you. I mean, it looks like Mr. Whitley had
Yes,
something to
Commissioner
add.
Stevens.
Yeah.
Michael Whitley, Senior Planner with Larimer County Planning Department. The atomic tower site that people were referring to is about 2 miles due north of this property. It's exactly 2 miles due north of this property. So from my understanding is that would not be a feasible site for coverage based on what the applicant has represented.
Thank you. Can I ask a question to staff too? I had a question about the 60-40 split of the trees. So, it sounds like that, I mean, do we still think that that's a good idea because it feels more natural, or do we feel like because this would be a monopine that it might be better to have a different tree mix, a different split of the tree mix? I don't know if anybody has an opinion on that. I'm just curious.
You can certainly put a condition of approval if you want to have a different mix. Our code, I believe the intent was to do the 60-40 because it seemed more natural instead of just being one evergreen type of tree all the way around. It kind of looks monotonous and doesn't look natural. I think that was the intent of the code for that reason. But it is certainly up to you if you would like to put a different condition of approval on the application to change that.
Okay, I don't necessarily I was just curious on your opinion. It seems like a more natural look would be better, in my opinion. So I probably would not attach that condition, but thank you. That's all I have.
Well, I can say from firsthand experience, it's not the only area in Larimer County that's lacking cell service, just to let you know. Commissioner Cafalas, I see you had your hand raised.
Well, I was actually going to suggest, when we get to that point, an additional condition of approval on that is perhaps an 80-20 mix. A greater preponderance or density of evergreens, and then, of course, some broadleaf trees.
Do you have any other questions, sir?
Nope.
Okay. Commissioner Stevens. All right. I think we'll start our deliberation then, so thank you very much. Appreciate you answering all of our questions.
Likewise.
Okay, so we will start with our deliberations. And so I will start with Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you for everyone who came out today. I appreciate this. It was a good discussion, I think, and I think Ms. Wells probably said it best when she said this becomes a decision between public safety and property values. I mean, for me, the public safety, I think in this case, I don't want to say trumps the property values, but it takes precedence over that. I think that, I have some serious concerns. I know that Commissioner Shattuck McNally expressed that there's several parts of the county that have issues with cell service. I live in Southwest Fort Collins. I certainly have that as well. But I do think that this is important for public safety. And I do think that the site is appropriate. I do find in looking at the criteria that the applicants meet the criteria. This being an industrial site, I think that makes it an appropriate site. And it doesn't sound like there's another site that would be more appropriate in this area to serve the people in the 2.5-mile radius that will be served. So I will support this. I am happy to entertain any kind of mix of trees because I don't necessarily have an opinion on that, but I would, if Commissioner Cafalas would support it better with an 80-20 split, I certainly would be in favor of that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. Commissioner Cafalas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and of course, thank you to all of you who took the time to engage and to be here present in person, of course, and certainly via the wonderful Zoom platform that we all appreciate. I will also be supporting the application. I think there's a need for it. Heard a lot of complaints about folks not having the proper coverage. That area the plans are for that area to grow significantly, and I thought it was interesting that I believe the tower that is being considered is being built, designed to address like a 400% capacity kind of thing. So I think there is a public safety issue. I think people deserve to have access to more reliable cell phone service. I thought the gentleman, Mr. Baker, who with the new knees, I appreciate that you took the time to be here, and I think your reference to your family situation, that's really important, to make sure that folks who may have mobility issues and all of that, that first responders can respond in a way. So I am supportive of the proposal. A reminder, I think it was mentioned by Commissioner Stevens, it's a tough job that we do with these land use hearings, but ultimately we try to be as objective as possible, listening to the comments, and that affects our decision. Our community development folks deserve a lot of credit. They're the technical people, and then we get to interpret things within reason. And we have general review criteria that we have to consider as part of the administrative special review process. And then, of course, there are more specific criteria as part of Article 9 of our Land Use Code, which deals with wireless communications facilities, the WCFs or something like that. So all of those criteria, based on the information that we've received, I think have been met. I would like to add an additional condition of approval, and that is, I think we have 8 there was one that was added on about the fall radius 2-to-1 setback, but I would like to add that rather than a 60-40 mix, that we look at an 80-20 mix, and as much as possible that those trees be as mature as possible. I know that's increased cost, but I think we want to do our best to mitigate the impacts regarding visuals. So I'd like to add a condition of approval that says the landscaping, the mix of planting of trees would be 80-20, 80% evergreen, hopefully a little bit of diversity in what types of evergreens. Juniper were mentioned, and 20% deciduous. We all love our Russian olives, of course, not really. In the springtime, they're pretty tough. I'm getting off track here, I'm sorry. But that's what I would ask for, an additional condition of approval, and certainly with that, I would be supportive of the application.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to thank everyone who came out today, and those who came to talk on both sides of the issue, and thank you to the applicant and the representative from the Dish Network to come and share the details as we asked a lot of questions. I'm glad we had this conversation. This was on consent. We moved it to discussion, and we're able to have an opportunity to hear from the neighbors about their concerns or the needs. Certainly, I know it was mentioned, Commissioner Gonzalez had driven through the site. This is an area that I've driven in the past through, so I was kind of familiar with the area. There's some other issues in that area that I have aware of, so I'm familiar with that area. And I do know how it is to live with reduced cell phone coverage and having not the ability to make a call sometimes. So I think it's something that it is, as stated before, a very hard decision. We try to base our decisions objectively, as Commissioner Cavallo stated, on the land use code, and we try to consider all of the neighbors' concerns. And it is hard sometimes to balance neighbors' concerns along with the need for public safety. So I agree with my colleagues. I won't go into all the details as they have, because I'd just be repeating some of them, but I do feel the applicant has met all of the criteria, and I do appreciate the residents bringing up the concerns that they did have. It sounds like this is the best site, and I do support the Commissioner Cavalos's extra addition of another item of approval, long as the applicant seems to be good with that. And so, Commissioner Stevens, you said you were also in support of that, so we can add that item of approval. So I will ask Commissioner Cavallo to make that motion, since he wants to add that addition of approval, to make that motion for this item on our agenda.
Yep. I move the Board of County Commissioners approve the Prospect Energy LLC Cell Tower Administrative Special Review 22-WC F0075, subject to the 8 conditions in the staff report, with an additional condition of approval, as previously stated, that the landscaping would be an 80-20% mix, evergreens to deciduous, and that the applicant would do their utmost, well, that's being subjective, but do their best to mitigate any visual impacts expressed by the neighbors. Something like that.
Our county attorney.
Take out the last part, huh?
Well, I think my understanding of what you were sort of getting at was that you wanted the trees to be as mature as possible in order to mitigate those things. This is a little bit of a, and we can put a condition that we can add to your condition that the trees would be as mature as possible. I know from doing other things like this, at some point, if you get too big, they have a less likelihood of surviving. But so we can just put in the condition that they're as mature as possible.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Frank. So just again, to clarify, not to confuse things or make them too subjective, the condition of approval will be an 80-20 mix, evergreen to deciduous, and the intent to identify mature trees to be planted, based on, to target mature trees as much as possible. Oh, come on, it's okay.
We want to follow what we need to do, Commissioner. So I think with that, motion is on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you all, and thank you all for being here today. And now we will pause briefly as we change staff seating to come up for the next item, which will be the discussion item of the Cortez Short-Term Rental Administrative Special Review. I just was letting them, because they have to switch, they're having to switch staff. Do you need to go to the restroom? No. Okay. Okay. So we'll move on to our item, first public hearing second public hearing discussion item, which would be the Cortez Short-Term Rental Administrative Special Review, file number 22-ZONE3328. Actually, I think our staff will start with that presentation. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Tatum Hastings, planner with Larimer County, and I'll be presenting Cortez Short-Term Rental 22-Zone3328. This short-term rental is located at 79 Wyndham Court, Livermore, Colorado, 80536. Located approximately a half mile west of West County Road 74E in the Glacier View Meadows subdivision, 8th filing. Robert and Nicolette Cortez are applicants. The current zoning is RR2, rural residential, with a lot size of 1.02 acres. The short-term rental is served by Glacier View's Meadow Water District and Sewer District, as well as Glacier View Meadows Fire District. Access is off of Wyndham Court. The request is the applicant/owner requests administrative special review to convert the existing single-family residence into a short-term rental with 5 bedrooms for a maximum occupancy of 10 total guests allowed at any given time. A short-term rental is defined as a dwelling rented to transient guests for short-term lodging when not occupied by the owner or renter. A short-term rental use is classified as a commercial lodging facility use and is permitted in the RR2 Rural Residential Zone District following administrative special review. 79 postcards were mailed to neighbors within Glacier View Meadows' 8th filing. We received written comments from 11 community members in opposition and 1 community member in support of the proposed short-term rental. Community member comments are included in the packet as attachment E. We received 1 additional email, which was provided in a memo to the commissioners. In reviewing a proposed administrative special review application, the director shall consider the general approval criteria in Article 6.3.8.d, general review criteria, in addition to the following general criteria listed below. Specific review criteria for short-term rentals is found in Article 3.3.5.b.2, which is listed below as well. The administrative special review process authorizes the director to approve applications by which all criteria are met and there are no substantive issues. If the director determines that the application is unusually complex or raises potentially unique or serious impacts on the county or the surrounding areas, the director may refer this to the Board of County Commissioners. The proposed administrative special review for the Cortez short-term rental meets criteria in section 335B2 and meets 3 out of 5 criteria in section 643D. Staff does not have a conclusive determination on criteria 1 and 2 of section 6.4.3.d. The development services team is not making a specific recommendation on the Cortez short-term rental, file number 22 zone 3328, and has presented all the information by which the Board of County Commissioners may base their deliberation and decision. Motion option 1 is to move the Board of County Commissioners may deny this short-term rental, file number 22 zone 3328. And motion option number 2 is to approve the application with the 13 conditions of approval, which are listed in your packet. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Hastings. I appreciate it. Job well done for your presentation. Colleagues, do you have any questions at this point from? Okay. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes, I have a question. I seem to recall reading a letter from our one of our referring agencies, our chief building official, regarding the issue raised on the potential 5th bedroom as it relates to habitability and square footage. What is the status of that situation?
Yeah, the applicants did complete a permit for the conversion to a bedroom. It was finalized on November 21st, 2022.
And it addressed the square footage issue it must have?
Yeah, for it to be approved, it addressed the square footage issue.
So the current proposal for 5 bedrooms is?
Stands, yep.
Based on what we have in place? Okay, thank you.
Correct, yep.
I'm good.
Okay, so we'll move on to the presentation from the applicant. And we are going to probably, like we did for the previous folks, give about 10 minutes. So would that be enough time for you?
And once she introduces us, I'd like to just ask the county department a quick question about the slide that they presented before we get started.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead and
Is that okay to ask Leslie they have a question before they get started?
I just want clarification on one of the slides. I don't understand one of the slides.
Okay, why don't you ask that at the end of your presentation, and then Tatum could
great. That's fine.
clarify. Yeah.
Perfect.
First of all, I wanted to thank the board for having us here today. I understand that, this can be a tough job for you all, and I really appreciate everybody and all the effort that they have put into this for us. So just wanted to have this presentation to kind of explain to you all who we are, why we moved to Glacier View, why we had to move out temporarily, and address the concerns, and then follow up with how we think we can give back to the community through this. So this is my husband, Robert Cortez. He's a Colorado native. He was born and raised in Loveland. He's currently an executive director at a large assisted living in Southern Oregon. He's a retired military veteran of 20 years and a former Adams County Sheriff's deputy. I'm Dr. Nicolette Cortez. I'm a Kansas native. I lived in Colorado since 2018. I'm a doctorate prepared nurse practitioner, and I'm currently working in a small community-based hospital in Southern Oregon, former ICU nurse. We are a very large family consisting of our 8 children, ranging in ages from our 16-month-old twin girls to our 17-year-old twin daughter. We also care for my 84-year-old grandmother who lives with us and has Alzheimer's dementia. Sorry, could you? And then the next slide is just a picture of all of our family in the home, and you can go to the next slide. So our home at 79 Wyndham Court in Livermore, we purchased it in February 2021. I left off a number there. We had finally found that home in the mountains that we had been looking for that was actually large enough to accommodate our family of 11 people, and that didn't cost a couple $1 million. The home is custom made. Everything that I have put into that home is unique and original and bought from mom and pop stores here in Larimer County area. It's close to our extended family, just far enough away to feel like we had our own space. Has beautiful views. It's rustic, natural, and abundant in the wildlife. You can go to the next slide. Why we left. Unfortunately, shortly after we moved in July of 2021, my grandmother, the one I mentioned earlier, was hospitalized with COVID for over a month. She recovered and was able to come home. However, with the home sitting at between 7,000 and 8,000 feet, we noticed that she was really struggling to breathe up there post-COVID. We brought this up to her physician, and he suggested that at least in the interim while she was healing that we move down into lower elevation. Also in September 2021, our twins were born, and our smallest twin was having the same issues with oxygenation, and while her lungs matured, it was suggested by her pediatrician that we move down to lower elevation. An opportunity came up in Oregon for a crisis contract, and that would kind of solve that issue of being in lower elevation, so we took that. Also, I was personally asked by multiple community members and stakeholders in Larimer County, including Cynthia and Frank Liebrock, Annie Scott, Karen Hughes, Ellen and Dan Morning, Pastor Ryan McAdams, and Dr. Janice Wexelman to open a practice in the area. As I'm sure you all are aware of, there really is no medical service anywhere, in northern Colorado up in the mountains. So certainly not the Red Feather Lakes, Livermore, Crystal Lakes area. Unfortunately, with the oversaturated job market in Colorado, I was having to work in Denver. There was no way that was sustainable at the time, and I needed to get more practice under my belt, which the opportunity in Oregon provided me. So our future plan is, 79 Wyndham Court will always be our home. This is where we brought our twin girls home to, and it's extremely special to us, and it really is our dream home. As I just mentioned earlier, I want to get enough practice under my belt as a provider in a group of experienced hospitalists so that I feel comfortable enough returning and opening my own practice, which Robert, who is a business professional, will help me run. Together, we'll finally be able to provide the Livermore, Red Feather Lakes, and Crystal Lakes area with the health care that they currently do not have. Our plan is about 3 to 5 years to make this happen. The neighbor concerns, you can go to the next slide. Primarily water, noise, traffic, roads, parking, fire, too many rentals, and safety and HOA rules. Something that I find is common with all short-term rentals. And they are, people have valid concerns. The water use. It has been determined through the application review process that the community well is capable of supporting our short-term rental. The Division of Water Resources Office opinion states that the well may be used as a water supply for the use of the existing residents for short-term rental purposes as currently proposed. Our operations manual addresses water conservation waste, and we will continue to monitor our meter closely and remind every renter about this during the renting and vetting and rental process. Again, we are a family of 11 people that normally would live there full time. So, having short-term renters in, I feel would use actually less water than if we lived there, especially with 3 teenagers. Noise, this has also been addressed in the operations manual along with the appropriate quiet times and guideline hours listed. Our closest neighbors, Al and D. Judd, live within 100 yards of us and will be closely monitoring for any type of noise, and this issue will be addressed immediately. Traffic would not be any more increased than if our family lived there. We have 5 cars, our son drives, our daughter's getting ready to drive. We have a nanny that comes up there. And furthermore, traffic would not pass anyone's homes on Wyndham Court. We live on the corner of Wyndham Court and Mount Harvard. As mentioned in the previous slide by the planners, it is a half-mile stretch of road that I believe only passes a couple of driveways down to our home. The highway is a busy thoroughfare to Red Feather Lakes either way all the time, regardless of our rental, and cannot be helped. I know it was mentioned by a couple of people that there's a lot of traffic going up to Red Feather Lakes that can be disturbing to them, but unfortunately, we can't help that issue, and I don't think our rental would impact that significantly. The roads, we will continue to pay for road maintenance as this is part of our dues. There again would be no more wear and tear than if we lived there full time. And I just address again where the home is located. It doesn't take up much road. You don't have to go through the community. It's just half a mile off of the main highway. The next issue is parking. We have a very large driveway, which I believe can be seen in some of the photos that were attached in the packet. We comfortably fit 8 cars in the driveway along with our 42-foot RV. We've had that many cars there on a Christmas gathering, and we've never had to utilize any space outside of our driveway. However, due to the concerns of the neighbors who commented, we have written in our guidelines that we've limited the parking to 5 to 6 cars. There's no reason or need for anyone to park outside the driveway at any time, and this, again, is instructed in the operations manual. This is not allowed. Fires, outside open flames or burns will not be allowed or tolerated. Fire safety information has been included in the operations manual, and the home is well equipped with multiple fire extinguishers in clearly designated places. Our home has been well mitigated against fires, and there's not many trees on our direct property or right near our home. Too many rentals. I personally am not aware of other short-term rentals in the immediate vicinity of ours. There may be, but I don't know about that information. I do need to make a correction to this next line. There is only one home that is within the immediate vicinity of ours, and to my knowledge, this person does not live there full-time. I believe that was the one of the Mount Harvard addresses listed in the comment. All the other neighbors who are in opposition can't even see our home. Are up past the mountain past our home, so it's not any situation where anyone would be driving past their home to get to ours in any way. While many persons are not in favor of short-term rentals, if properly managed, they can be a great asset to the community, I believe. They bring in tax dollars, they bring in potential home buyers to the area, and they provide an opportunity for us to share our beautiful community with others who may have a vested interest in the area, just as we did, and I did, providing healthcare on the mountain, which I never realized there was need that existed until I moved up there to Glacier View Meadows. Safety. Our official property manager is located within 5 minutes of our home. Our very closest neighbors, again, Alan D. Judd, who are present today, are unofficial property managers that are basically on site. They will be keeping a very close watch on the home and ensuring that all rules set in place are being enforced. No one under the age of 25 will be able to rent the property in their name. In order to even view the home on Airbnb, you must be a verified user with a 5-star rental history with our verified reviews, or with verified reviews. Our home is a high-end rental. The starting rate is at $350 a night plus a $350 cleaning or $300 cleaning fee. I don't believe that this is something that somebody who just wants to go up and party would want to do. Also, the area, is not for people to go up and party. There's really nothing up there, that people just want to party would have to do. We have security cameras outside of the home and surrounding the property, so that way we could intervene if there was any issues or notify our manager of any issues. The locks on our keypad entry, and the code is able to be changed after each guest, and are even able to be changed during the stay if a problem came up warranting removal of the guests. The HOA rules, they're clearly all stated out in our plan. And so just to recap, we are both professional and reliable people with a long history of serving the community, state, and nation. Again, this is our dream home, and we plan to return.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Colleagues, do you have any questions for the applicants at this time? Commissioner Kafalis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you. Is it Nicole or Nicolette?
Nicolette.
Yes. I believe I have 2 questions. One is that I think in the letter from our Health and Environment Department from Ms. Leah Schneider, under water and wastewater, I read the Division of Water Resources, and they're good with the use of the well water, but there was a suggestion, it's not a requirement, to consider, and apparently the HOA was suggesting this, to consider installing low-flow use water fixtures, et cetera. Any thoughts on that,
I
Nicolette?
believe our home already has a lot of that equipment in place. I know our toilets are the low flush. They don't use a lot of water. I can't speak to a lot of the other engineering type things, but I know that that is the case with our toilets. And that is something, like I said, I believe that that is already in place. The home was recently completely remodeled and with all the state-of-the-art everything back right before we purchased the home.
Looking at the pictures, it looks like quite a home.
It is.
My second question, and I believe my last one, thank you, Madam Chair, is could you clarify, and maybe staff could help with this, what does the Glacier View Meadows HOA, I think you're in the 8th filing, what do they state about short-term rentals? I thought I read somewhere that initially, when everything was being built, there was some kind of prohibition, but then that changed. Can you speak to that, either of you folks?
They are currently allowed, and we did go through their review process, and they approved the application pending the approval of the commission.
And I would like to just add one thing, Commissioner Kafalis. Glacier View currently does prohibit long-term rentals for your situational awareness.
Long-term rentals,
Yes, sir.
but not short-term rentals.
Correct.
Correct.
That's a bit of a twist.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, the world is quite interesting.
Yes.
Thank you. You've answered my questions. I'll try to stay focused.
Commissioner Stevens? Okay, great. So I'll have you both sit down and we'll see if there's any public comment, and then if there is, we'll give you 5 minutes for a rebuttal. And, but thank you for your presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, you said you had a question about one of the slides.
It was basically for Ms. Tatum, on that second to last slide where it said that you guys had approved 2 of the 4,
3 of the 5.
or 3 of the 5 conditions. I was just a little confused on what that
Yeah.
meant. Because I understood that all departments concurred and that the short-term rental was approved all the way through all departments and pending the county commissioner's approval.
Right, so the 2 criteria that we listed as not being met, the first, let me double check if it was the first 3 of 5. So the proposed use has minimal impacts on existing and future development of the area is criteria 1, and criteria 2 is any impacts associated with the environment, wildlife, access, traffic, emergency services, utilities, parking, noise, glare, odor, and other adverse impacts have been adequately addressed and/or mitigated, and these usually stem from neighbor comments.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, as we go forward with public comment, I think I saw from your list, Leslie, we had a couple of folks. Are those folks in the room? And first one, so we have Alan Judd. If you could come up, identify yourself, sir, and you'll have 2 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for letting us be here. Because of my poor memory, I have some notes here. I live at 550 Mount Harvard Road, and with my wife, we've lived there approximately 10 years, and we are I think we're the closest house to them, if not within a few feet of a different house, but we live less than 100 yards from their house. We've known them since they lived here, and they've been very responsive to any issues we've ever brought up. And just as a comparison, my wife and I have stayed at dozens of short-term rentals across the country, and they're not the kind of place where people go to party or such as that. Noise has never been an issue, and as far as this particular home, I don't understand why there would be more traffic at that house with somebody renting it than it is with a family living there. But I don't think it's going to be a traffic problem. Parking, they've addressed. And we have talked to the Cortez family. We also have used B&B, Airbnb, and VRBO, and they are going to go through those or similar organizations who have a vetting system for people that have stayed at other places if they cause damage or aren't good tenants, then they get a poor score. And they are limiting this to verified 5-star users, which is the highest level. So people with less than that rating with these companies can't even see this facility. It won't come up on their screen, as I understand it. The cost to rent it's going to be fairly high, so I don't think there's going to be a lot of troublemakers. Checking my time, about out of time here. Anyway, we support the use of this house in this manner, and as I say, we are very closely associated with that house, and it's not going to be a problem for us.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. So we have D. Judd.
Sorry, I broke some ribs, so.
Oh, it's okay. Take your time. Could you identify yourself, and I'm assuming you live in the same house, but
Yes, ma'am. D. Judd, and that was my husband, Alan. We live at 550 Mount Harvard, which is, our property adjoins, like, the lines are between their home and ours. I'm speaking from the sense of just maybe like a character witness, but we met these people briefly the day that they came to look at the house along with other people looking some time back. They were just very sweet, nice people. And since then, at the time they moved in, we've been very impressed with the couple themselves. And, we have 3 children. And to think that they have 8. And their home is lovely. It's extremely well kept. We are always very impressed by their children, their manners, their ability to just be polite, mind their parents. I guess we're like really old grannies and grandpas to them, because if they see us outside in the winter, they want to offer to shovel the snow, help us out. They're the same in the summer. We just find it refreshing. We just feel that the family is such that I can't, honestly, I'm not saying everybody should be doing this in our development, but I don't see a problem with this family and the people that may rent from them. My husband and I are considered 5-star people with VRBO and Airbnb, and we think of wherever we are as our responsibility, like it's our temporary home, whether it's 2 days or a week. And they're expecting the same from people, and I just feel that what they would do to prepare themselves to have a tenant there would be extreme consideration. And of course, time would tell, but my husband and I, they watch our place when we're away, when they are around, especially prior to them moving to Oregon. We do the same for them, just as friends and neighbors. And I'm certain that my husband and I, if something funny or something odd was happening, we would let them know. So that's just my personal feeling about it all.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Okay, we have Jim Petrie.
Thank you for reminding me of my name. I have trouble remembering names. I am Jim Petrie. I live at 23 Sunlight Circle. And no, I cannot see the residence that's in question. So my concern is for the community as a whole. I feel that, well, in checking with the office, they say that there are several other short-term rental homes in the area. But my concern is that the more of these that are approved, it seems to me it would be setting up a condition where investors will be coming in to build rentals of all sorts of different time limits and everything. And so I would just like to ask that you consider from that standpoint that it should be limited to no more than the people that have already have their establishments set up. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Tamara Bartz. If you can introduce yourself and speak to where you live. Thank you.
So I'm Tamara Bartz, and I am currently the property manager. And I also have a cleaning company up there. So I clean a lot of houses. I'm familiar with a lot of people up there. I do manage 2 other properties, but they are in Crystal Lakes and Red Feather. But their home is probably 2 minutes from mine, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm like right in the subdivision, right by them. So I have access to check on it all the time. If anything's going on, I have, I know right away. I would contact them right away also. The water issues, I know we have water issues up there, but with all the people they have, if they were full-time there, it would be way worse than people part-time. They're not doing it. It's not a everyday 365 day, a year. They're not going to have people in there every day. So, but great people. I started cleaning for them first and then decided to take on their property. So I'm all for it for them. I think it would be a good thing for the community. So.
Thank you.
Okay,
So is that it?
We don't have any more on the list who signed in. There may be people in the room, and I will check on Zoom also.
Okay, thank you.
So those of you who are in Zoom, if you'd like to make a comment about this case, now is a good time to raise your hand. And seeing none.
Okay. So with that, I'll just give one more opportunity to anybody in the room who would like to speak, public comment on this. Okay, we'll close public comment then. Okay, so colleagues, do you have any questions, or do you have, I guess, the rebuttal chance for the applicants if they'd like to respond to the comments? And you'll have 5 minutes.
Sure. I want to actually thank Jim Petrie for his input on this situation, and it is good to know that we have somebody with such, grassroots to the community that really cares about keeping it, original and home-like. And I understand his concern, I hear his concern, and I can assure him and all others who have the same concern that, we're not trying to commercialize the area up there. That's why we went with a property manager who's local to the area, who cares about the area like we do, who knows the ins and outs and knows the importance of the wildlife and the water and the fire, rather than some big name property management in town who doesn't really know. This, like I said, is our home. We fully intend to return here, so we don't want to come back to somewhere that, investors have built condos or rentals, or, we want to keep it, small. We come back here every about month and a half. At least, and check on things, check on our home, take time away. And it's really just, it's our peace. We love being here. And, unfortunately, if the job market was better here in Colorado, I would have, gotten a job down in Fort Collins. But, I was a new graduate and that wasn't the opportunity at the time. So, like I said, I appreciate his concern, but I really don't see that being a problem. We'll be extremely careful with who we allow to come in our home. I love that place. Everything in here, like I said, we handpicked. So it's not like a hotel or anything. That's not personal.
I just want to add on. I want to thank Jim Petrie too for coming out and commenting on that. He's also a part of the HOA up there at GVA, so I appreciate him coming out and making comments and stuff. The other thing too is hopefully, in a couple of years, you'll see us again, at some point for the healthcare concerns for up there, because that's truly what we're those names that we mentioned. Hopefully you will hear from us again.
And we are looking at a spot that is at Gate 1. It's just down the road from us. So we're hoping to, get approval, get everything planned. Of course, that's later on down the road to open.
But just food for thought, planting the seed. But anyways, that's all.
And thank you.
Thank you. And you might want to just stay there. I know I'm going to have a question, so just wanted to see colleagues, do you have any questions or comments?
Just an aside comment. My understanding is that there's a great demand for nurses and nurse practitioners in northern Colorado, so you might want to revisit that.
They don't want new grads, though. I mean, I'm in it a couple years now, so I can reassess.
Well, and don't forget physician assistants as well, high demand for those as well, Commissioner, and they're really well trained as well. So I happen to know about that a little bit. So anyway, if my colleagues don't have any questions or comments, I had a quick question, and I think this is addressed to staff, but then I'm going to follow up with a question for you both. My concern is, I know their neighbors said they're kind of 5 minutes away, but they're not really the official property managers, but then the property manager is 2 minutes away, but it sounds like she's got a lot of properties. I don't know what is I'm trying to, and I'm asking because I know where I can find it, but what is the requirement for property management or response to issues up there? Because the sheriff's is I happen to know it's a long response time, but I know what our current regs, I think I'm having trouble because I've been reading the current suggested regs, but what is it? Is it an hour, or what is it 24/7 and an hour, correct? Or
24/7 and 1 hour's drive.
1 hour's drive, okay. So thank you for clarifying. I just want to make sure I was correct on that. I know we're looking at other items in the future. So my question for you all is I forgot her name because she took off, so it's a sad Tamara. She is one person, so she's a management company, but she has several, it sounds like. Does she have someone that can cover 24/7? Because I know it's your wonderful neighbors, and it sounds like that's a great neighborhood to have. But I'm wondering what it is, since it is such a remote area, we don't, it's not always fair to think that it's the sheriff's offices to respond to these things.
Of course. Tamara actually lives about 5 minutes. If you were to put it in a GPS, it's a little less than 4 to 5 minutes away from us. She has 2 other properties that she manages, one in Glacier View and one in Red Feather Lakes. And then she has a cleaning company up there that she owns. So as far as property management, I think it's definitely something doable. I mean, she only has 2 others.
So if she's, what I'm asking is if she's the only person,
No.
if she's on vacation and
No.
things, yeah.
Yeah, her children work with her as well as her husband. So
Okay.
they tackle all of those responsibilities together, and they always have somebody covering up there. Yes.
Okay. Well, hopefully her and her husband take vacations together, so maybe not, but hopefully. Okay. And then I do want to, I appreciate, you're trying to be really good community members and stuff, but we're really trying to focus on the criteria, and so I appreciate that response. I think that's the only question I have. I just wanted to make sure that there is someone who's able to drive that hour and have that response. The other thing I had a question about, there's these manuals, and I've had a lot of complaints recently from the Estes Valley, which is kind of close to my home, is wildlife up there, and I'm hoping that you'll think about really stressing that we don't feed wildlife. It's a constant complaint I get from folks, especially up there being bear aware and all those things. I haven't heard really people talk about that. And then also, I was wondering if you'd be willing to your neighbors, they may not have Tamara's number, if you'd be willing to mail that out or give it to all your surrounding neighbors in case there is an issue, so that they don't have to go up to your house to get the number, that they'll have her number and contact information so they are able to access that quickly.
Absolutely. We'll provide that to all of them. And as far as the wildlife goes, of course, I included the instructional papers about, I believe, feeding wildlife and bear aware was one of them, and I included that in the operations manual. As well as the HOA manual, I have at my home beside that, and that also addresses all that information as well.
Yeah, I just, it's always easy to provide a manual, but it's, I think we all know sometimes you buy something, you don't always read all the instructions before you put it together. So I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to emphasize that, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a place on the Airbnb website, maybe?
Right, yeah, and of course, like when somebody also books, the information pops up, so I will be happy to include that in the manual as well as something that they have to acknowledge before they can book, so that we have the verbal acknowledge, or the physical acknowledgement.
Great, I appreciate that. As
Sure.
lots of wildlife interactions and, yeah, so I appreciate that. And thanks for just confirming the availability of the property manager, because it is, especially when the weather's bad, you know, it's you want to make sure there's someone can get up there. So with that, I think that's all the questions I have. Colleagues, any other comments or questions? Okay, so we'll go ahead and deliberate. You can have your seats. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll start with Commissioner Kafalis for our deliberation.
Thank you. Of course, thank you to the public that turns out for these things. I'll be supporting this short-term rental application, and I'll explain my rationale. First of all, once again, we refer back to the review criteria, and there are the 5 general review criteria. And the first 2, I think, to further clarify what was stated by Tatum, at least from my perspective, is that the community development, the planning folks don't make a conclusive determination about that based on the input that we've received on this particular application and others. And so oftentimes on those first 2 criteria, dealing with potential future impacts on development and so forth, and the environmental wildlife, it's based on the input that we received from folks. And so I want to acknowledge that we did receive emails from people. We have some folks here present, the Judds and Mr. Is it Petrie, I believe, if I pronounced that correctly. So appreciate that. But I think that the review criteria have been met, both the more general ones and then the one specific, Article 3, I think it is, specific to the short-term rental. To speak to Jim, if I may, Jim's comments about being mindful or cautious about setting up the conditions where more of these are approved, and therefore it becomes an outside investor's paradise or playground. I think one thing I would say in response to that, it's a valid point and something I think we need to be mindful of. But each of these is a separate application, and so each application we have to consider separately. And if we approve this one tonight, it doesn't mean that that opens up the floodgates for others in the Glacier View Meadows or up at Red Feather or Crystal Lakes or any of that. So I wanted to make that comment, but I will be supporting the application for this particular short-term rental with the various conditions of approval that our folks have put on the paper. Thank you.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for everyone who came out today to speak and those online and those who sent in emails, because we received quite a few emails. And I appreciate the applicants addressing some of the concerns that they heard. Certainly noise is something that we hear a lot about or concern about noise. And so I appreciate you maybe sort of more hand-picking the people that come that aren't going to be throwing a party. I think that that's really important. I think that with safety, sometimes I often have concerns about people sort of getting out of a house that they don't know in a situation. So I know we have a lot of regulations around that, but I would just make sure that, that egress kind of is really clear for the people because if you're in a house with 10 people trying to get, 10, and you know this all too well, you have 8 children, getting, if you had 8 kids to get out of a house if there was a dangerous situation, I mean, I think that, and you're not familiar with the house, I think that that's really important to kind of make sure that, so I would say anything you can do to help with that egress and help people understand, how to get out of a house quickly and easily is important. But I will be supporting this. I feel like it does meet the criteria. I understand that, some communities are concerned about being saturated with short-term rentals. But I do think that in this case, while we've heard some opposition, I feel like it's been adequately addressed by some of the things that you're willing to do to protect the property. And knowing that it is a property that you plan to live in at some point, I am sure you are very careful about who would be able to stay there. Also, I think having the property managers so close by is really important because they can help with any issues that arise. Certainly, if there are guests that are not living up to their 5-star rating, they can help with that situation as well. So I will be supporting this, and I thank everyone for coming and giving your input on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. And so I want to thank all of you for coming down from the Glacier View area and Red Fire Lakes area, and especially to the Judds. Right, and Mr. Petrie, thank you for coming down. Being in person is really impactful to hear from you, and appreciate all the comments that we did receive. I know we had a lot of opposition in the emails, and I understand their frustration. It sounds like when they moved there, the HOA didn't allow these, and then that was changed. So that is something, I guess, we can't control. That's for the neighbors and the HOA to address. And I think as we look as our new regulations going forward, this won't be impacted by them, but for the HOA to think about that with density and spacing and things like that, because I do know in some parts of the county, it is, and I'm thinking some specific folks where the neighborhood is pretty much majority is short-term rentals and people are surrounded by them, and I understand the impacts of that, and so I don't want to see that happening in those neighborhoods. I have kind of extended family in that area and some friends, so I understand why they moved up there and why it's so important. And so I do think something for you all to have a conversation to as your community, what you'd like to see for the future of that, because I do think it is a potential that as people see this as an opportunity of investment and stuff, it can accumulate and escalate. So I think that's something for, since the HOA was changed, we can't, that's not for us to dive into. So I do appreciate the residents looking like it looks like they're really trying to be good neighbors. I appreciate you having someone local being close by for response, and I like the idea of the cameras and be able to address that, and I appreciate the stringent things you're doing online. I think a lot of these, I know since everyone says, oh, there's no reason someone's not going to want to have a party, but guess what? You always say that, and then someone's going to bring a bunch of things and have a party. So it sounds like you have enough in place to address that. I appreciate your sensitivity to kind of my concerns about feeding wildlife, and because we want to not be better aware and not set them up for failure, and I'm always worried about those things, so I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind of the things you've done to kind of address kind of that high wildfire risk area and to help folks understand the evacuation, and because that area has been evacuated a few times, so I appreciate that thought for that as well. And the same for your safety as well, to know all those routes and to understand, because that is a lot to have to evacuate a large family. So with that, I feel even with the opposition, you have addressed a lot of these concerns. It sounds like this is not going to be in the long-term, a long-term, short-term rental, that you guys are doing this for the interim and really want to become members of the community in the future. So I think that is important to consider as well. So I do feel the two criteria that the staff had felt had not taken position on. 1 and 2 have been addressed. I did have some concerns in the beginning before we had this hearing, and I wanted to be open to the applicants addressing these concerns. So with that, I will also be approving or supporting this application along with the associated conditions of approval from staff. So with that, Commissioner Stevens, would you mind making that motion, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'd be happy to. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Cortez short-term rental file number 22, Zone 3328, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion, colleagues? Okay, with that, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations. We'll be moving on. We're going to take, we've been in for 2.5 hours. I'm going to just take a brief, like 5-minute, and I apologize for those of you who've been waiting, but we might need to take a quick break. So thank you all for your patience. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you. We all needed to take a quick break since we have been sitting for 2.5 hours. So we will move on. We have 2 more items on our agenda, and we'll move on to the item of the Atkinson Short-Term Rental Administrative Special Review, file number 22-ZONE3365. And who will be doing that presentation? Ms. Hastings, thank you.
All right, hello again. I'm Tatum Hastings doing the Atkinson Short-Term Rental 22 Zone 3365. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name. The short-term rental proposal is located at 32189 West Highway 14 in Bellevue, Colorado, located approximately south of West Highway 14. Brandon and Sarah Atkinson are the applicants and property owners of the short-term rental. This is zoned O open with a lot size of 0.23 acres. They are served by an on-site well as an on-site septic, and Poudre Canyon Fire Protection District serves the property. Access is off of Highway 14. The request from the applicants is administrative special review to convert the existing single-family residence into a short-term rental with 4 bedrooms for a max occupancy of 8 total guests. I apologize for the mishap there, allowed at any given time.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
It should be we're only asking for 4 total guests. It's 1
Oh.
bedroom plus 1 additional.
Okay, we'll correct that here. Short-term rental is defined as a dwelling rented to transient guests for short-term lodging when not occupied by the owner or renter. A short-term rental use is classified as commercial lodging facilities used and is permitted in the O Open Zone District following administrative special review. 30 postcards were mailed to neighbors within 500 feet of the property. We received 3 community member comments in opposition, and community member comments are included in the packet as attachment E. In reviewing a proposed administrative special review application, the director shall consider the general approval criteria in 638D, in addition to the following general criteria listed below. The specific standards for short-term rentals can be found in 335B2, which are also listed below. The administrative special review process authorizes the director to approve applications by which all criteria are met and there are no substantive issues. If the director determines that the application is unusually complex or raises potentially unique or serious impacts on the county or the surrounding areas, the director may escalate this to the Board of County Commissioners for a decision. The proposed administrative special review for the Atkinson short-term rental meets criteria in Section 335B2 and meets 3 out of 5 criteria in Section 643D. Staff does not have a conclusive determination on criteria 1 and 2 of Section 643D. The Development Services team is not making a specific recommendation on the Atkinson short-term rental file number 22, Zone 3365, and has presented all the information by which the Board of County Commissioners may base their deliberation and decision. Motion 1 is to deny the Atkinson short-term rental file number 22, zone 3365. And motion 2 is to, approve the Atkinson short-term rental file 22, zone 3365 with the following conditions. I also forgot to mention at the beginning that I'm presenting this on behalf of Logan Graves, who is online to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hastings, and thank you for sharing the, because I was looking in the notes that it was Logan's notes, so thank you for clarifying that. So, colleagues, do you have any questions for staff at this time? Commissioner Kafalis.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think a couple of questions I believe are appropriate to direct to our planner, Mr. Logan Graves. One is that regarding the operations manual, there were some things identified that needed to be corrected. Have they been corrected or addressed?
This is Logan. Yeah, all of the corrections have been adequately addressed and revised in the operations manual.
Thank you. And would you be the person to respond to? It might be someone from engineering, but I seem to recall in the material that we were given that the actual house, the structure, is located above the floodplain overlay, the base, the BFE.
We have Karen from our floodplain team here, so I'm going to pass it to her to answer that.
Yeah, I saw her online before. So if you could speak to the question about the house is above the floodplain overlay, but the access to the house.
How about I clarify a little bit more? I actually
please. Thank you.
I read the report for this earlier, and they have a hydraulic study done in 2004 for this property. It actually does show that the base flood elevation for the structure is 7193, and the structure itself is above that base flood elevation. The parking is behind that house. It's not specifically addressed, and I think that's why it got missed. It is behind the house, on the north side of the house, towards Highway 14. So the house is between Highway 14 and the river. The access is off of Highway 14. So access, driveway, parking, and the structure are not in the floodplain, based on the hydraulic report.
Karen, thank you very much. So therefore, the issues that were identified have been adequately addressed at this time?
Yes, they have.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Commissioner, I just want to, since I had that same question, I'd not make her sit back up and down. I know you have another question, but do you mind if I piggyback off of your question, sir?
I do not mind.
Thank you. So you said hydraulic study of 2004.
Yes.
And we have had some flooding since then, and a burn scar.
Yes.
And a high debris flow, so conditions are different.
Yes.
So that was where I want to kind of expand. I just want to be clear, because I have big concerns of having folks who are not from around here renting when they're not, I have heard firsthand stories of folks that were lost in the 1976 flood, where they drove up the wrong way in their car and they floated away in their car. So I asked because I know stories where people who are visiting didn't know where to go, and that was a long time ago, but still that could happen. So I want to clarify with the changing conditions, since that was a 2004 report that feels that the conditions for now, after all these different conditions, especially with the burn scar, which is a great concern of mine up in that area, they still feel this is out of the zone and a safe area.
I cannot speak to that directly without an updated hydrology. I do know we have newer hydrology, and that the flow rate coming out of the two of them are similar. So I would expect that the hydraulic studies to behave similarly. But without any more current study, and yes, there is a higher flow rate with the burn scar, but based on our regulations for a pre-fire determination, this particular structure and the parking and access are out of the floodway.
Okay, that helps. I know there is certain hydrology reports from an area, I think, above that, correct? And that says no one should live in that area, so I just wanted to,
Yes.
I know that's further up, but I just know that there's still some of that concern of the increased level for the next few years.
Yes.
With the burn scar, so I want to make sure that is, the report feels that is the same flow still.
The report is from 2004, so I have not had another, generally this would probably go through the flood review board, and that those would all get squared away in that.
Okay. Thank you.
This is, yes, you're welcome.
I understand now why you're sitting here in person, so thank you. Okay. Commissioner Stevens? Okay, so Commissioner Kafals, did you have further questions for staff?
I'm afraid so, yes. This one would be for Joelle. Regarding the information we received from the Division of Water Resources, and they said that the well, it's adequate to meet the needs. Then apparently there's a hot tub there, and maybe the applicants will speak to this, how they plan to fill that hot tub, because the well cannot be used to fill up the hot tub, as I understand it. So I guess they can speak to that, and maybe they can speak to what I think was in your letter from the Public Health Department about the importance of maintaining the quality of that water, because I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, bacteria and things that could build up.
Sure, absolutely. So we would definitely defer
Noel,
to...
would you mind talking into the mic?
Sure. Is this better?
It's better.
We would definitely defer to the applicants on how they would meet the sanitation requirements for a hot tub and filling that. But as far as that goes, we just want to be cognizant that improperly maintained hot tubs can create issues like respiratory illnesses, additionally skin conditions if we're not maintaining that proper chemistry. So in that case, if you were interested in figuring out how the applicants plan to meet that, I would defer to them on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So Commissioner Stevens? Okay, great. So we'll move on and have the applicants come up and present. And as you heard before, I've given everyone 10 minutes today, so I hope that's adequate time. So if you would introduce yourselves, and we'll start the timer once you've started.
Okay. My name is Brandon Atkinson. That's my wife, Sarah Atkinson. So I guess before I start, I'll touch on those concerns real quick. We actually do have a new hydro study that was just completed. I was supposed to get the report today, but I have not gotten it from Aaron Savar. But he, after running the report, said that we are still out of the floodplain based on the new models. So we should have that to the flood department this week. And then as far as the hot tub goes, we'll be just bringing up a IBC container. We bought the smallest hot tub you can get. So a 330-gallon IBC container is way more than enough water. We'll fill that at our house in Tacona using city water. And we come up once a month. So the hot tub only needs to be filled once a year, maybe twice a year. So on one of those outings, we'll bring the water up and fill it up with that. As far as maintaining the chemicals, we went with a fairly expensive brand, actually, that they have UV lighting in the pump to kill most bacteria. And then they also have a system that's very easy to monitor, to maintain chemicals. Rather than measuring and pouring out chemicals and then me doing something wrong because of human error, it's a system, it's just a floating ball. One side has all the minerals needed to maintain the water quality. The other side has the chlorine needed to maintain the water quality, and then it just it dissolves over the course of a certain period of time. You change out one half every month, which we'll do once we come up once a month. The other half you change every 4 months. And so that's how we will make sure the water the water quality is still good. Now, I guess to get into my presentation, thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you guys today. My wife and I, we both grew up in Colorado. We're natives. We spent a lot of time in the mountains. We love the mountains. We always wanted an opportunity to have a cabin. But to be frank, our finances wouldn't allow us to buy a second home. So when we learned about the opportunities of short-term rentals offsetting the cost of a second home, we thought we'd make our dreams come true. Our goal for this is not to make a lot of money and buy rentals and doing sort of anything like that. Our only goal is to offset the cost of this cabin so that we can enjoy it. We really want to be up there as much as humanly possible. Since August 2nd, we spent almost every weekend at the cabin, actually. And during that time, we've been lucky enough to meet neighbors like Lauren and Dorothy who are here, and just a lot of people in the community. We've fallen in love with the community, fallen in love with the area. If our finances improved in the future, we'd love to make it our permanent home someday, but that's not the case for now. We understand some of the neighbors have concerns, and actually we share pretty much all of their concerns. For us, this cabin's our dream home, and the idea of somebody else breaking the rules and harming the property or the house or causing issues with our neighbors, we're more afraid of that than our neighbors probably are. So we've made as many plans as we can to mitigate all the risks. But the most important measure that we're going to be taking is that, like the people before us, we're not going to be turning on Instant Book on Airbnb. Anybody who wants to book with us, we have to review them. We have to review their profile. We'll see their ratings, their personal reviews, and we're only taking people with 5-star ratings, just like the other people that were here before. By turning off Instant Book, we'll have a decrease of 52% of bookings, which is that's just estimated by AirDNA, which is the leading short-term rental statistics tracker. So right off the bat, we're cutting our bookings in half, and we're okay with that because what we're more concerned with is the quality of the people up there, not the quantity. And we don't want the place booked solid anyway. We want a lot of time to be able to enjoy it ourselves, but we would like to have some really nice, respectful guests come up and help offset our costs when we can. As natives of Colorado, we both witnessed many fires. We can see the fire or the damage from the fire from our cabin. We have friends who almost lost their houses in the Cameron Peak fire. So we understand the dangers of forest fires. In order to mitigate those risks, we put some rules in place. No fires outside, no fire pits. We don't even want to have a gas fire pit, which would be safe, but we don't want to encourage outside fires of any kind. We have the county mandated fire suppression system over the stove. We have a fire extinguisher in every room, as well as 3 additional ones in the closet, just as extras, just to be safe. We have signs at the property, no smoking anywhere on the property, inside, outside. We don't want any smoking whatsoever. The owner before us, we purchased the place in August. The owner before us was a volunteer firefighter with the fire department. So the property is meticulously mitigated. And then, of course, we're going to continue to do yearly mitigations. We have in our rules that we don't want the guests even emptying out the ashes from the fireplace that's inside. We have a cleaning crew. They will do that. They live in Red Feather Lakes, so they understand wildfires and how to properly dispose of ashes. But just in case, there was human error on their part, we also bought a vacuum specifically for ashes that it has a temperature sensor, so if the ashes are over 104 degrees, it'll automatically shut off, and that would alert them to a hot spot that perhaps they miss, which hopefully they never would, but we're trying to take away all risks as much as humanly possible. I think that's all I have for fires. As far as management, is concerned, we do live outside the hour window. We're about an hour and 30, hour and 45 minutes away. So we have tried to put together a team of people who can help us because, like I said, we are terrified that someone would cause any issues on our property. I mean, mostly selfishly. I don't want them to hurt our house, you know. So my brother, he's technically the property manager. He lives just down the canyon, so he can handle anything that isn't immediately time sensitive. He can get up there well within an hour, but in case he can't, our cleaner who lives in Red Feather Lakes, they have a team who manages properties. They said they would help 24/7. If the owners are on vacation, they have several employees. I don't know how many, but she says she has a team of people who can help. And then even beyond that, 4 of our neighbors have offered to help keep an eye on the place or handle any issues that need to be addressed within minutes. One of them is across the street. He's full-time. He's one of the only full-time residents in our immediate area, but he's a firefighter with Fort Collins. He said he will take care of any issues that we need. And then also the neighbors immediately to the left of us, the 2 houses, they're part-time, but they said they would be willing to help out. And our neighbors here, Lauren and Dorothy, live directly to the east of us, and they said that they would help us out. Miss Carol Logan mentioned her concern with there being parties of people, and that's actually one of our number one concerns also is we don't want more than 4 people in the house. In fact, we'd like to have 2, but you know, we realize people have families and stuff. So our capacity is 4 people is what we're asking for, and we really do not want it to ever go beyond that. And so to mitigate that risk or to enforce that rule, we have cameras at every entrance to the house, the back door, the front door, but then overlooking the backyard area just in case they try to sneak people around. The cameras cover, I'd say, 99% of the property views. So you couldn't get a crowd in there. You couldn't get people camping in our backyard or our front yard. You couldn't get any of that. They would not be able to break that rule without us seeing and addressing it, which we would immediately. She also mentioned that in her experience, short-term rentals get trashed. You know, that may be the case from her experience, but like I said, we're putting cameras in place to monitor all this stuff. We have a team of people who are going to help us enforce any rules that have been broken. But then we've also tried to think about human error just as accidents. Like, for example, we bought a bear-proof trash can because our concern was even if we bought a large trash can, a metal trash can even, people would maybe put their trash in there, leave the lid open, or just leave it unlatched, and bears would come open it and get into the trash, which is harmful to the bears, but then it also trashes our neighbor's property. So we bought a fairly expensive trash can that has it self-latches. It's the same style you've seen at every campground. You know, you have to stick your hand under the little box. So that was a huge expense for us, but we're trying to think of everything, and we're really just trying to mitigate any issues that could arise as much as humanly possible. As far as her comment about guests stealing neighbors' firewood, we have like a year's supply of firewood in our shed, and we have a nice firewood stand right outside the back door, and we're going to be restocking the stand once a month when we come up. Oh, okay. Time's up. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. You want to make one more statement, wrap it up?
I guess, you know, that we're just trying to offset the cost of the cabin so that we can be up there enjoying the mountains. That's really all we're trying to do. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's all okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. So we'll go ahead and open it for public comment, and then we'll ask some questions. We'll see if we have questions after that. So Leslie, was there people in the audience? I thought there was one, at least.
I believe we have several. Let me just verify. So I show Lauren Johnson signed up here, and then it sounds like there may be some other folks here as well.
Okay, so we'll start with Lauren Johnson. You have 2 minutes, sir. Thank you. If you could introduce yourself and where you're, I know where you live, but go ahead and for the record, thank you.
Yeah, Lauren Johnson, live immediately east of Brandon. We were very excited to have them come in as neighbors. They're a very, very fine young couple. They do everything very thoroughly. They don't miss a lick. I mean, everything is done to detail and done very well. They've done a lot of work to the property since they got it. We're very much in favor of having them get their license to do this. I don't think you're going to get any problem with people that come in, the people that rent these things. Price is a consideration. You're not going to get riffraff in there. They're going to take care of the property. We have no problem with them doing this. And to address that floodplain deal, my cabin has been there since 1896 on site, and we're the same level as they are. Their lot is flat and then it drops off to the river, so it's not just right there on the river. There's a ledge in between. And we all know how expensive everything is in the world today. I think it's very admirable that they could afford and want to take on this project, being the age they are. It's fantastic, I think. So I hope you can approve the deal for them and get them on their track.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, so now.
That is the only person signed up in the room.
Okay.
I will also check Zoom, but there may be other folks in the room who haven't signed up.
Thank you.
So now is a good time if you're on Zoom, if you'd like to make a comment on this particular case, the Atkinson short-term rental, please raise your hand. Okay, and there is not somebody on Zoom.
Thank you, Leslie. I'll just give one last chance for the audience. If anyone else would like to make public comment, you'd have 2 minutes. Okay. Well, since we could have 5 minutes of rebuttal if you'd like. You don't really seem to have any public comments against it. So, but I'll see if my colleagues have some questions first. So, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you. Yeah, if you folks want to come on up again, thank you. I had 2 questions. Would you clarify the property manager distance? In the operator's manual, it indicates your brother who lives in Loveland.
Correct.
And getting from Loveland to Rustic is more than an hour. So I wonder if you care to comment on that.
Well, he came up for Christmas, and it took him right at about an hour, but I think if you put it into Google Maps, like it's in that range. And so when we had talked with the building department, they said that address was okay. But if not, we can use Decked Out, which is our cleaning service. They'll happily be the full-time manager for a small fee, which I'm happy to pay. The only reason we had done my brother before is because we didn't know about them. And so we ended up talking to him first. He would handle everything for free, but I'm happy to switch to Decked Out.
No, I appreciate that, Brendan. I don't want to add on the extra cost, but I think that getting from Loveland to Rustic in an hour, it takes almost an hour to get from Fort Collins to up there. So that's something I'd like you to think about. And
okay.
I don't know if I want to add that on, but the second question I have is another recommendation from the Public Health Department in the area of noise. In reading all this stuff and, having been up there a little bit, it seems like the houses, and Mr. Johnson is your neighbor and a nice neighbor, it seems like, they're pretty close together. And so I believe Noelle in her letter recommended that if there are noise complaints, that perhaps either a suggestion or perhaps a condition of approval would be to install sound sensors. But again, I don't know how expensive that is. And could you speak to that, Noelle? And I think it would be subject to if there are complaints, and then maybe that would be a course of action.
Absolutely. So I'm not aware of the cost of those kinds of systems. I know that there are a couple that are used out there for places like Airbnb. You can find information online regarding those. So we don't have a specific recommendation on the type or what that would cost. But in our case, like we had mentioned, if we were receiving or the county planner was receiving multiple comments from neighbors who are concerned about that as potentially a condition of approval, but we would defer to the planner for that condition or the commissioners. In this case, it's something that we're seeing kind of cropping up, so it's an option. It's not something that's required at this time from us, but it's something that we're seeing that can help provide peace of mind sometimes to neighbors, so that's something to consider.
Actually, I did look those up. They're roughly a couple $100. Usually they come with like a $20 monthly service charge. So I'm not opposed to that. The only reason we haven't done that yet is because with the house being on the river, most of the year, obviously when it's frozen over, this doesn't apply, but most of the year the river's fairly loud. So our neighbors to the west of us had a party up there when we were up there one weekend in the middle of summer. They probably had 10 or 15 people, and they're not far from us. We couldn't hear what was going on over there, and they probably couldn't hear what was going on with us. Now, if there's complaints, absolutely, we'll put in some of those noise monitors. One issue with the noise monitors that I did read, though, is that some of them have a hard time filtering out wind, and it's really windy up there most of the time. So I'm sure there's probably companies who have fixed that issue, and I can do more research on that. If it's a condition for approval, absolutely, I'll do it. Or if it becomes an issue with our neighbors, I want to keep these people happy more than anybody. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think I'm satisfied with your response and your sincerity. I don't think I would ask or require that we add that on as a condition of approval, but I'd like it to be duly noted for the record that that would be an option should there be complaints.
Sure.
You're welcome, Commissioner. Commissioner Stevens.
I don't think, all my questions have been answered. I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Well then, if you don't have any, I will continue on. So I do live west of Loveland, and I have gone up to Rustic a lot. I've been up there a lot after the Black Hollow. So I know I tend to sometimes be a little speedy. I try not to be, but I love driving. I go up to the mountains a lot. So, and I do know pause or weather conditions, and we really have these regulations. They have to be within an hour. And if there is an issue. So I think I do have that concern. If you would consider, I don't want to add to your cost, but I do think it's important to have someone who lives up there. And that's one concern I always have with some of these short-term rentals in these far-off places for fire concerns, wildlife, and wildfire risks. I just think that, if we have those in place for a reason, so that the neighbors have someone to be able to respond quickly. We hear about this all the time in Estes Park because people want to have the sheriff come up and deal with things, but it's really, it's on the property manager, the property management and the owners to be able to provide that quick response to these. And so I do think that would be something that I would consider as a condition, is to have someone who's closer than an hour. And I know when you first said down the canyon, I was thinking you must live, kind of far, but Loveland is not down the canyon. For me, Loveland's down the canyon of the Big Thompson, not the Cedar Canyon. So really, that's where I live, so I know. So, I'm saying, and I crawl all over those mountains. So I was born and raised this here, so I get it. So I think that is something that I would feel that even though planning said, oh, that kind of is in the area, I still think that's outside the hour. And so I would probably want you to address that for me. And I don't know if my colleagues would support that, but I just have, and your brother may not be 24/7. And so you need to have a property management company that would be 24/7. And maybe you guys are all off on a family vacation. You know, that's kind of important. And that's one thing I think the neighbors need, that peace of mind. We have a lot of folks that email us with their concerns. And I think a lot of them, you have addressed a lot of those concerns with the water and only having 4. And I'm satisfied that you're not in the floodplain, because that was a really big concern of mine, knowing that area and being up there and driving that area a lot, especially after the flood, the debris flow. So I don't know if you would consider doing that. I know it's an extra cost, but I think for the peace of mind for your neighbors and for the safety of all, and to make sure that if there is an issue, you can resolve it quickly, because it is for your benefit as too, because there is people could file a complaint, because they're supposed to be able to respond to that quickly. And if we have this new enforcement system and you don't get someone up there quickly to address any violations or something, it would come back on you that you did not do that within the timely regulations. And so I think this is also important for you to have, so you can respond quickly and show that you did respond. So it's also for your protection as well as the residents. And so I'm suggesting that as because I see why you want to do this, and I know we all wish we could own, vacation homes or second homes. I know there are a lot of people that do that, and so it's not for everybody. But we have these regulations in place for the protection of your neighbors, to balance the property rights of everyone. Because I know some folks don't want to have these next door because they have had bad experiences, and I know there've been a lot of things to get it in place, but it just takes one time. And I think if you didn't have someone who could respond quickly, that would be a possible first strike against you. So do you know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of where I'm thinking of, for both your neighbors and for yourselves, that you would want to do everything you can to be responsive. So, and I'm sure your brother's a really awesome guy to want to do, but he has to be 24/7, and it doesn't sound like he's 24/7. So I would think that I would think that, but I'd have to say you have to have the different service. So I hope my colleagues would support that condition. So unless, you guys are really pushed against that, but it sounded like Commissioner Kafals, you were open to doing that. And they sound like it's the same one as the other.
It's actually a different one. I
Oh,
don't
really?
know about
Okay.
her.
Okay.
So we will have Decked Out be our new property management company, and we'll update the owner's manual accordingly. We'll get that done this week.
Okay, so I just want to ask Tess, is that a condition of approval? We need to just add to that they're going to change the management, or is that just something, how should we handle that? Unless my colleagues aren't supporting that.
If you want to do that, I would just add a condition. I mean, on some level, they're already required to do what you're asking them to do, to have somebody within an hour. I wouldn't specify a particular company. I would just say they must have a property management company within 1 hour.
Okay,
So that's within is under, right?
correct.
Yeah.
And they live up in Red Feather, so that's, the area.
Okay, so we'll just make that a condition of approval. So maybe one of my colleagues can add that, unless they're, and I think, I appreciate the extra things you're doing for cameras, and that's also for your protection as well as everyone else. And it certainly sounds like you have wonderful neighbors. I just did an interview recently about the west side of Loveland and importance of neighbors and people that look out for you. And you may not always agree with your neighbors on everything, but having a good neighbor that will be there to look out for your property, and you look out for their property, and having that where you do kind of look out for each other is invaluable. So I kind of envious you have such a wonderful couple that really willing to drive all the way down to do this. So it's pretty special.
They're the best.
Awesome. So with that, I think that we'll go ahead and do our deliberation unless my colleagues have other comments. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So colleagues, we'll go ahead and start with deliberation. I'll start with Commissioner Stevens this time. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for coming here to the applicants and the people that spoke. Lauren, appreciate your comments. I will be supporting this application. I think they've met the criteria. I appreciate the extra due diligence around things like the cameras. Certainly, I would agree with the condition that we should have somebody within an hour, so we can add that to the motion. But other than that, I think with the sensors, like you said, the river's pretty loud. It probably won't be an issue, but if it becomes an issue, it's something you can add, especially because, if there are too many code complaints, you don't get to operate any longer. So it's in your best interest to have that if needed, and maybe you can find one that mitigates for the wind situation. But otherwise, I'm satisfied that this fits the criteria, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the applicants and their neighbors. I too will support this application. I appreciate your sincerity and your willingness to ensure that the property management is within that hour that's stated in our regulations, and your openness to being good neighbors. I was very impressed by that high-tech trash disposal. I think that'll do a good job of keeping the bears away. So I just echo what Commissioner Stevens said. I'll support it. The criteria have been met. I think folks are trying hard to make sure that they're good neighbors and everyone's safe. And the floodplain issue it appears that it's been addressed. So that's important. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. So I appreciate everyone again being here today. I know we keep saying that, but it is a drive. And since I'm the commuting commissioner, I guess, I understand I have a 40-minute drive up and back all the time, so I get that. So I want to thank you all for your willingness to come down in person, and I appreciate the thoroughness of your application and your willingness to address the concerns of your neighbors. I think it sounds like you have addressed the two criteria. You have addressed those. Obviously, it really is important to me that you did that extra step of having the best possible bear wear and proof container, because that's really important to me. I hear a lot of complaints, especially in Estes Valley, of people feeding wildlife or not taking care of the situations. And the bears, if we do our part, they'll do their part. And so we want to do what we can to avoid those bear interactions that are negative. And I think that's important to have. I have a bear every year on my property for over almost 2 decades, and they don't bother us. We have no interaction ever, except for one time trying to open the chicken coop. That's just one time. So I think it's really important to have that. So, and we look forward to their coming and eating in the fall every time. So all the berries in the backyard. So it's really great to have. So I do appreciate you. It really is a criteria. You have to have that of someone within an hour. So we're going to kind of add that as a condition of enforcement. And then also, I just hope that since you are being good neighbors, just maybe letting your neighbors know how to contact who's maybe not just putting on the front door, but maybe going out to your neighbors and giving them that information, even though Lauren and them are probably know everybody, and then some up and down the canyon, maybe just making sure the neighbors have that ability to call them if there is an issue. And then I think hopefully your neighbors get to know you as well as Lauren and them do, and understand that you're really trying to be good neighbors and do your due diligence to be responsible. So with that, I will be supporting that with that condition that they have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
My apologies. I'm Samantha Mott, Senior Planner with Larimer County Planning. I apologize. I wanted you to finish, but I wanted to make note that there are some standard conditions that weren't in the staff report, but they are on the next slide, on one of the slides. And I wanted to suggest that the commissioners include, we typically have all these standard conditions on our short-term rentals. So
you want us to have the motion include this one condition and all these other conditions from option 2?
Yes, that is our recommendation.
Okay.
And I don't know if the applicants have seen or they can see these, but they are, I believe they're all just standard conditions of approval that we place on all of our short-term rentals.
Okay.
I believe we've met all these. I haven't seen this exact slide, but If it's the same content that's on our application, then we've met all these.
Well, and some of them are items that you need to do after approval, like the posting of the property manager on site, the mailing notification of the property manager. So I think you've agreed to do some of these, you just may not have done it yet.
Correct. There are still some things we still need to do. One of them is the life and safety inspection that has not been scheduled yet. Yeah. And then also that hydro study that has not been turned in to the flood department yet, but it should be done this week. I know that's something else that needs to be done. So, okay.
Okay. So this motion should include the, do you want to, I see number 7, so it should be 1 through 15?
Correct.
And then the additional, that the property manager has to be within an hour. Okay, so it'd be 15 plus the extra. Okay, thank you for that clarification, Ms. Mott. I appreciate it. I'm trying to be formal, so Samantha, but Ms. Mott. So I want to make sure we have that all clear, and thank you, because I know I remember we had read that you guys had those 2 conditions, but I just wanted to kind of clarify that because I still have the issue of people having to walk up a long driveway to find the phone number, so. Okay, so with that, I will be supporting this application with those conditions and that extra condition of approval. So with that, I think Commissioner Stevens, would you mind making that motion, please?
Oh, I'd be happy to. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Atkinson short-term rental file number 22, Zone 3365, subject to the conditions 1 through 15 listed in the staff report, and with the added condition that the applicants designate a property manager within an hour's drive.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens, for that motion and adding that extra condition of approval. Is there any further discussion with this motion that's on the table? Okay, with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, with that, you're approved. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to our last item on our agenda, which is the Great Day Getaway Bed and Breakfast Administrative Special Review, file number 22-ZONE3190. And Ms. Hicks, you are presenting today. Thank you. And so I look up and we have another change of folks, so I'll let you get started. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hello, again, my name is Tracy Hicks from the Larimer County Planning Division. I will be presenting on the Great Day Getaway Bed and Breakfast, file number 22, Zone 3190. The property is located at 108 North County Road 5 in Fort Collins and is approximately 0.5 miles north of the intersection of County Road 6 and County Road 5 and East Highway 14. The applicant/property owner requests an administrative special review for a three-bedroom owner-occupied bed and breakfast for a total capacity of 6 in an existing home. I would like to clarify that means 4 guests and 2 owners on site. The zone district for this property is RR2, Rural Residential 2. This next slide shows the site plan submitted by the applicant that delineates the 6 available parking spaces. Per the Larimer County Land Use Code, a short-term rental is permitted within the RR2 zone district following administrative special review. Administrative special review requires general review criteria to be met for approval, sections 643D in the Land Use Code. Staff finds the application and supporting materials may not have adequately met the following administrative special review general review criteria as shown on the screen in section 643D of the Land Use Code. Neighbor concerns include, but were not limited to, noise, traffic, compatibility, overall compatibility, and septic concerns. A courtesy neighbor notification about the proposed project was mailed to properties within 500 feet around the subject property. This included 9 neighbors being notified. Staff received emails from 3 neighbors voicing their concerns regarding the application. The neighbor comment is provided as attachment F. This application has been referred to the Board of County Commissioners because the director has determined that the application is unusually complex or raises potential unique or serious impacts on the county or surrounding areas. The director may refer the application to the Board of County Commissioners for decision pursuant to the same criteria under which the director would have been required to apply to that application. The proposed administrative special review for Great Day Getaway Bed and Breakfast meets 3 out of the 5 criteria in section 643D. Staff does not have a conclusive determination on criteria 1 and 2 of section 643D. The Development Services team is not making a specific recommendation on the Great Day Getaway Bed and Breakfast, file number 22 zone 3190, and has presented all the information by which the Board of County Commissioners may base their deliberation and decision. On your screen, you will see motion option number 1, and on the following slide, you'll see motion option number 2 with the following conditions. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you for this presentation. Commissioners, do you have any questions currently for staff at this point? Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, I have a question about the septic situation. Is that, I mean, it seemed that there was a neighbor that said that there would be some kind of septic issue because it was shared and it hasn't been improved in 20 years. Can you speak to that? Ms. Udell?
Yes, absolutely. So Leah Schneider with the Health Department reviewed this, but in our review process with our water quality team, they determined that the system is adequate for the proposal for the number of total occupants at 6, which is that 4 guests and 2 owners. There was no indication in the review materials of there being a shared system. So at this time, the water quality in our department would approve that use.
Okay, so even though the neighbor had said, and I don't, let me see if I can find that. Oh, maybe here it is. The cistern and the leach field are laid out, I guess adjacent to the property, and it have not been improved in 20 years. So that piece doesn't concern you, it still feels adequate to serve?
According to our water quality team and their review, it would be approved. So based off of their review of what we know about the system, it is an unpermitted system because of when it was installed.
Okay.
But based off of their review, we would approve it as is.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Foss, any questions or concerns at this time? Okay. So I will, I'll wait and hold my questions at the end, and we'll go ahead and have applicant come up and present. And thank you for waiting this whole time. So I know it's been, we're all in this together, so.
I know.
So if we'll have 10 minutes, like I have given everyone else throughout the hearing today. So if you would introduce yourself, and we'll proceed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me and hearing this case. I will try not to take 10 minutes, but my name is Jessica Baradell. I bought the house that was in question about a little over a year ago, and it was kind of a stretch, but it was my dream home, and I really wanted a way to be able to kind of finance it. It's a huge house. It's over 3,300 square feet. And I wanted to, a way that I could help finance it, pay for it, improve it, and enjoy it. And I am a property manager as well. That's what I do for a living. I oversee communities of over 300, tenants. So it is it's the thing that I know how to do and I'm used to. So I felt that it would be something good for me to venture out to. There has been, it seems like it's been kind of a road to try to get to this point, but I feel at this level with just having a few people in the house is easily separated. It's very manageable and I feel like a light request. I do want to address my neighbors' concerns, and I'm very, I'm extremely concerned about it, their happiness, their level of contentment on their property. And again, I'm most concerned. So whatever they have, I've addressed their concerns, and anything else that I can speak on, I would be more than happy to.
Okay, I guess that's your time. So I guess what we'll do is we'll let public comment happen, and then we'll have you come back up for questions from the colleagues in public comment. But thank you for your presentation. So I'm assuming we have some people signed up because there's still some people in the room. So, and thank you. Like I said, we're all in this together. So we'll go ahead and start with public comment. And looks like Connie Matos. You'll have 2 minutes. If you can introduce yourself, where you're from, and you have the clock up there for reference. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Connie Matos, and I live at 190 South County Road 5. I've been on County Road 5 since 1976, so been there for a while. I just have a couple concerns, and one thing I want to thank Jessica for adjusting her application to lower the number of people that are going to be at the B&B, because she had started, I think, with 10. This sounds a lot more manageable. But my concerns are the road that we live on. I don't know if anybody's been out there to look at our road. We live on a dirt road. Right now, they're doing work on it. It's in horrible condition. There's a curve in the road that's very close to where Jessica lives. That's very dangerous. We've had a number of people go into the canal that's right there. 2 people actually have died there. So that's a concern. Also, that a business like this doesn't really fit with the area. It's all residential and farmland out there. And so that's a concern for me, that it's just not compatible with what's out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, so we're moving on to, is that the only one we have? Okay, can we see if there's anyone online? Oh, we have one other person in. Okay. Can you identify?
And we don't have anybody online.
Okay, thank you. So if you.
Hi, I'm Lance Smith. And if you look at the map, I live right behind Jessica's place. Over in a neighborhood, it's a separate neighborhood, Vista Bonita. And we've had other people live in that house who really were hard to have as neighbors. And I've got to say, when Jessica first moved in, they had kids riding motorcycles, just normal stuff that kids do. Kind of riding dirt bikes, dogs, just little stuff that we've talked about. And every time I've talked to her, she's totally gone overboard to help out and kind of mitigate the situation so it works for everybody. And I think she would probably do that for her bed and breakfast too. So I just want to say, as a neighbor, behind her, we've had great experience. I don't really know her, so I'm probably at arm's length to say I think she would probably do a good job with this. And it's my mom's birthday, so I got to go. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, so, and there's no one online, and just see if there's anyone else in the audience, which are leaving a happy birthday to your mom. Great son to celebrate their mom's birthday. So any other comments, public comment in the room? Yes, go ahead and come on up. Please introduce yourself and where you live. I'm assuming that's your mom.
Yes, hi, I'm Marissa. That's my mom. I'm so proud of her. So I had similar concerns. I lived with them when I was younger. I don't anymore, but I do house sit for them. I hope it to be my home at some point in my later years in life. And so I think one of our concerns was just the traffic, like she said. We don't get too much. I think people make the wrong turn and go down that way. So just having a few more people, and then obviously continuously having people come through, different people every time. I think that that's kind of a concern. We just don't know what we're going to get. And then the noise, of course. I don't know if she's going to enforce any kind of like quiet times. I'm sure with 4 guests it might not get too crazy, but just something that came to mind. And then again, yeah, it's just a very small neighborhood, very few neighbors, very close. I hope that we would get to know her better too as well, because I don't think we know her too well just yet, but so those are just the few concerns that I think I have as her daughter. So yeah, thank you guys so much again for being here and listening to all of us.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so colleagues, I'll go ahead and have Ms. Baradell come up and address rebuttal for 5 minutes. Probably won't need all that time, but.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. And again, sorry, we probably couldn't have talked earlier. I was kind of new to the area, but as far as the concern with the road is they are working on it right now, but there is a guardrail, and I know I've heard an old story of years ago of some people falling off that were maybe drunk. I don't know. But anyway, regardless, it is a city. I mean, it's a county road, and I mean, we've got mountains, we've got roads. I mean, I've got my kids that drive up there, and I feel confident that they're going to be cautious. My older teenage, my young 20s, and they drive there, and I never think about their safety. I understand with new people coming, there could be, some concern, but again, it is very well marked, and I think, with your lights on, you can make your way to the house just fine. I have 6 just about grown children, so to have 4 or 5 guests over, we're talking over 2 acres and a huge house. I mean, that's really not much to me. It's not, I mean, to have if my kids came over for a gathering or something, then it would be way more than that. So I know they probably don't know me. They think it's going to be crazy, but like I said, I'm a property manager. I have to live there, so there's no way that I'm not going to make sure things are calm and good and safe, and that things are in control. My neighbor that lives really right next to me, he's really the only one that's close, and he, at first I think he put a complaint or a concern in, and then we talked about it, and he said he's totally fine with it. He didn't come tonight, of course, but I think if people just get to know me a little bit and they see that it's very minimal amount of people, then they would feel comfortable enough. And again, I'll give them my numbers. If anybody has any issue, I'll bend over backwards to make sure everybody's happy and nobody is being offended or made unhappy in their situation because of me.
Great, thank you. So colleagues, do you have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, so you've only lived there a short time, so the dog that was barking maybe on the property was not you. Is that correct?
Yes, I house sat and I was friends with the former owner. And apparently I would house sit from time to time for him just, as a friend, and I wanted buying the house from him, but that was his dog. So I've only been in the house since that February. That was not my dog.
Okay.
And I don't know that neighbor either. I don't know who that is.
And do you think because the road maybe be a little twisty and stuff like that, that's probably something you could put in your, your advertising or something like that? I mean, I think that would be helpful for people to know that they're going to, slow down on the road or something.
Yeah, exactly. Sure, I could do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Kafalis.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, and folks who showed up. I wonder if you would comment on the recommendation from the Poudre Fire Authority regarding access. They weren't making a condition of approval, but they did have some issues with the access for fire trucks. Should there be a need? Are you aware of that? And if so, do you have any thoughts on that?
It is a double lane road, maybe 3 wide, and you know, they're kind of reconfiguring things right now, so, and they're actually putting fire hydrants, I believe, on the road now, right now, so it's a county road, it's pretty wide and accessible. I don't really, I'm not familiar with exactly those comments. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kafala, did you have more questions? Commissioner Stevens? I want to thank you for, it sounds like you've been trying to become neighbors and get to know folks and kind of share what you're doing, and it sounds, and I really appreciate these folks coming. So I had a question, because it is, will be on site whenever you're renting. You won't, I just want to kind of do this for your neighbors, but also for the public to hear that if you're not home, you can't rent the site out. So that you will be there and be able to be responsive right away to any kind of issues. And you're only doing 4. And so it sounds like that would be, it wouldn't be something that was constant, because I'm sure you'll like not wanting to do this all the time. And it sounds like you're very busy with property managing other things. So, so my other question, I did have the question about the dog, and it did sound like, you know, that was someone else's dog, and I'm sure maybe folks thought you lived there, maybe not because you knew the person. So, but I did have a question about the access as well. I'm not sure if I was kind of confused whether it was the road or whether it was your getting into your property. So I wasn't sure what that was, that question.
I'm not sure if there's a little map, but it's just it's a regular county road, a regular turn off the drive. There's really no access issues with getting into the property.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure where that concern was. So does that sound like that's been addressed? Okay, great. And then and I was curious about the farm experience. Are you having animals? And I know I've seen somewhere they go out and help feed the animals or something, or feed the chickens, or is that what I'm just curious about that.
Well, I do have chickens and I do have dogs and cats, but it's, you know, and I'm not really quite sure, you know, if there's people that are coming that are not very keen on that, I'll keep them on our side, but hopefully we can have an experience where, you know, they'll enjoy the wildlife, I guess.
Okay, thank you very much. Colleagues, do you have any questions or concerns after that? So, okay, thank you. You can have a seat. We'll start our deliberation. Okay, any other questions, comments from? Okay, so we'll start a deliberation. We'll start with Commissioner Kafalis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks to the folks who are here and the folks who were here, and certainly to the applicant. I think that, I mean, the tone of the presentation and the comments made by folks who live in the area are ones where issues that are identified can be worked through. And this is a bed and breakfast, which is different than a short-term rental for now, in terms of our definitions. So I will support this with the conditions of approval that are listed in the report, and I'm going to trust that neighbors, if there are concerns, can, you know, reach out to the owner, Jessica, to address those concerns.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, I will also support this, the applicant, and I just want to thank all of you for staying as long as you did. I mean, it was a long for us, and we actually, you know, were active participants, so we appreciate you coming. And it sounds like, Jessica, you know, I hope that you and Connie, you know, kind of stay in touch and kind of resolve anything that might come up. But I do think having the owner on site makes it a lot different situation than a short-term rental. I mean, you know, clearly you would like to sleep, I bet, some nights too, so you probably don't want people, you know, making a lot of noise after a certain time as well. So I do think that helps the situation immensely with some of the concerns that have been expressed, but all my questions have been answered, and I think you meet the criteria, so I will be in support of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens, I had just one quick question real quick as we're delivering. Is it the same reporting requirements for a bed and breakfast as a short-term rental? If there's a complaint, they call in the same process?
Yes, I believe that they can make a formal complaint to the code compliance department.
Okay. Great. So is that part of the condition of approval too? That they are having to help give the neighbors out the numbers? I thought I wasn't sure because we've had so many short-term rentals the other two. I think it was on the other two, but I wasn't sure about this one. Is it down there?
It is not with bed and breakfasts, but with short-term rentals, that's a standard condition.
So, okay. So, but it is where people could call and complain anyways. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. So I do appreciate Connie and your daughter. I'm sorry, I forgot your daughter's lovely name. Marissa, thank you. Sorry. Appreciate you coming down and staying this whole long time. And I'm sure you learned a lot about what commissioners do. So we appreciate you being there. And thank you, Ms. Baradell, for being here. And it sounds like you're really trying to reach out to your neighbors and be a good neighbor, and I'm hoping you can do the same with Connie and them to kind of address their concerns, because I think we all have to kind of understand and put each other's in each other's shoes and think, well, what I wouldn't want, I've had this where I'm trying to go to sleep at night and they're having karaoke contests outside my window, so I understand, you want to go to sleep, and so, especially if you have to get up at 4 a.m. So I feel, I'm sure you'll address that, and with it, you being on site, I think that helps out a lot in that you've come down to 4 guests. So I want to I say that because I do take the concerns and the complaints that were emailed in and the neighbors that came in and the neighbors that came in to support you and the ones that had concerns still, that we are listening and we do understand those concerns. But I do think those criteria have been met and that you have addressed those concerns, and it looks like you continue to want to be a good neighbor and kind of build relationships. And so with that, I will also be supporting the current application and conditions of approval. And so I will ask Commissioner Kafalis to make that motion with those conditions of approval, because is there just 8, as I understand, the 8 conditions of approval? If you wouldn't mind making that motion, Commissioner Kafalis.
I would not mind making that motion. I move the Board of County Commissioners approve the Great Day Getaway Bed and Breakfast, file number 22-Zone 3190, subject to the 8 conditions listed in the report.
I have one further discussion. I see in the app, the bed and breakfast, is that occupancy of 6 people, that's 4 guests and 2 owners, so that's a total of 6, not 6 guests, right? Okay, so I want to make sure I was clarified on that. So any further discussion from there? Okay, the motion is on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. We are finished with our agenda and our land use hearing. At 6:55, we are adjourned. Thank you all, and thank you to staff and Deidre and everyone else for being here for this length of time. Have a great evening. Thank you.